Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 471. You can kill me instantly with my 17 cards? The energy blade pierced straight through the back of the mechanical pioneer, and a huge critical hit number of 4100 appeared above its head. Link had originally aimed for Dr. Zhao's head. Unfortunately, the other party was a level 50 leader-level NPC. After getting close, he still sensed it and stopped, causing Link's prediction to be wrong. However, this time, the gas knife pierced into Dr. Zhao's back with high-energy particles. The sound of mechanical failure and damage came from Dr. Zhao's body, which twisted and trembled uncontrollably, accompanied by the sound of cracking. Dr. Zhao placed his arm on the throne with difficulty and pressed it down. The strong repulsive force and turbulence from the throne sent Link and his sword flying. The terrifying air current grazed Link's face. He felt a sharp pain, and soon, 2 bloody marks appeared on his cheeks. Using the multifunctional combat suit's parachute, Professor Zhao landed smoothly. Link saw that the mechanism had closed, and Professor Zhao had completely hidden in the city. The internal structure of the war mode mechanical city was complicated. Link had used his movement techniques to pin down the position of the cannons for a long time. Under the bug commander mode, he controlled the treasure hunting mouse, the mouse secret service team, and the black tide of mice to destroy all the cannons. Now that Professor Zhao was hiding in the city, it would be difficult to find him again. Link looked down at his clothes and found that there were many knife-like cracks. The gust of wind just now had taken away 20 points of his health points. In terms of strength alone, it was extremely terrifying. After using Shadow Meld, Link brought the 5 fat rats from the Rat Secret Service team to the foot of the city. He then quickly absorbed the undead power of the dead zealots on the battlefield, pushing Blood Rage to the 60th floor. He would take advantage of the time when Benjamin led the Wolf Riders to rush over to attract the attention of the mechanical pioneers, and then take the opportunity to deal tons of damage from behind. Obviously, other than letting the mechanical pioneers escape, Link's plan was 90% successful. The mechanical pioneer had 20,000 HP, and Link had taken out 4,100 of it in one hit, cutting off 20% of it. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had cut an artery. The attack just now had only pierced through his back. If it had been aimed at his neck, it would have dealt at least 10,000 damage. Link quickly adjusted his mindset. After all, the mechanical pioneer was a level 50 leader. It would be too disrespectful to give him 9,999 points in one go. Link now had 60 stacks of Blood Rage on him. His attack, movement speed, and resistance were all increased by 300%. He had 9 minutes left before the effect would last. He had to find and finish off the mechanical pioneer within these 9 minutes. As soon as the thought popped up in his mind, Link suddenly felt the city beneath his feet tremble. Then, all the signal lights in the mech city went off, and the ground trembled as if the earth was moving. The metal door under the city slowly opened, and the elevator rose up from the sealed space. The first thing that caught his eye was a strangely shaped metal head that was highly anthropomorphic. The skull was about 2 meters long, and its eye sockets were covered with a reflective layer, like a pair of sunglasses. There was a horn-like signal on its head. There were breathing devices on both sides of the cheeks. Several lines as thick as a bucket extended from the chin to the neck and throat, and under the protection of the thick armor plate on the chest, it returned to the center of the hub. Different from the bloated functional mechas built by the other mechanical elders, the mecha built by Dr. Zhao had a sharp shape, a slender body, and a streamlined body. Other than the obvious characteristics of a mecha, it was no different from a giant human. The most eye-catching part of the entire mech was the 1-meter-thick electric cable connected to its back. Link was stunned. This design looked familiar. Other than the polished silver outer shell of the mech, it was a little different from the purple and green combination in his memory. He didn't dare to say that they were similar, but they were exactly the same. Next to the lift, there was a weapon rack that was raised with the mech. On it was a giant assault rifle and a black crystal spear that was emitting black mist. They were about 10 meters tall, similar to the mech. At the same time, on the sides of the mech's two calves, there were two protrusions that looked like the handles of pistols. On his shoulders, there were two huge diversion-type heat dissipation slots. The deltoids on his slightly curved back were bulging, and two high-power exhaust vents could be seen. Good lord, you know I can copy skills, so you're doing all these things from the netherworld so I can't copy them, hey? Link finally realized that Professor Zhao's plan was to avoid fighting with Link as much as possible and use the city's advantage to weaken Link. It had to be said that this move was very effective. The mech was 10 meters tall, and coupled with Professor Zhao's talent in mechanical engineering, the mech had a perfect design for combat firepower. Link cracked his neck and wrists. What came next was the real tough battle. Dr. Zhao piloted the mech and looked out through the eye porthole of the cockpit. He gritted his teeth as he looked at Link. At this moment, in addition to the function of a driver's seat, the steel throne had also transformed into a maintenance device. Various mechanical arms were performing precise surgery on Professor Zhao's chest and back. He reconnected the broken circuits and passages, and treated the unnecessary parts of the wound. Dr. Zhao's eyes were burning with anger. He immediately stopped what he was doing when he felt that something was wrong. If he had continued to sit down, the knife would have pierced his brain instead of his spine. The sword just now had made Professor Zhao fume with anger. A single slash had taken away 20% of his HP. He still felt a little scared when he thought about it. Several mechanical arms quickly repaired the armor and replaced the armor plates with alloy. An electric current coursed through Dr. Zhao's body, and he gradually regained the feeling in his hands and feet. Link's growth potential and trump cards were deeper than he had imagined. In a short 3 months, he had prepared all kinds of ways to restrain him, but the first move he used was a new one. This made Dr. Zhao's clenched fist hit cotton, and there was no reaction. After reaching the maximum level of Shadow Melt, Link was still extremely fast in the alternate dimension. Even if he used large-scale attacks, it was still uncertain if he could catch up to the other party. Now, he was ready to use a new trump card against Link the Terminator. This was the mecha that Professor Zhao had painstakingly researched for 10 years, gathering all kinds of machinery knowledge from the machinery faith to create. It was the ultimate weapon that had been kept hidden when they had attacked the Freedom Federation. However, it had been forced out by Link this time. As Dr. Zhao started the ignition, the Destiny mech started up. The originally drooped mech suddenly straightened up as if it was injected with energy. Link, I was planning to take out the mech of the end when we attack the Sand Capital. Now, because of you, I have no choice but to reveal it in advance. It's your honor to die at the hands of the mech of destiny. The steel throne behind Dr. Zhao extended a connector and inserted it into the spine behind Dr. Zhao's neck. The mech destiny and Dr. Zhao's consciousness were completely connected and shared, eliminating the trouble of manual operation. That's a real disappointment. You'll probably have to show more cards later. Link casually checked the information of the mech. Name, Mecha of the End, Dr. Zhao. Race, Mechanical Object/Vehicle. Level, Level 50+, Leader. Identity, Ultimate Mecha of the Machinery Faith. Armor, 10,000/10,000, 15900/20,000. Energy, Unknown. Skills, Explosive Dual Pistols, Special Edition Thunder Assault Rifle, Cursed Spear. Evaluation, Pioneer Product, guaranteed to be of high quality. Lin Ke could not help but gasp after reading the statistics of the mechanical suit. The mech did not have a health setting, so what appeared were armor and energy values. 10,000 points of defense was equivalent to 10,000 points of health points. The Destiny mech was huge and dealt shocking damage. What was more troublesome was that it was connected to the mind, so its movement speed was not as cumbersome as other mecha. It was extremely agile. The only good news was that Link's Chi blade could deal 200% damage to armor, and the 60 stacks of Blood Rage would increase the damage by 300%. As long as he could find an opportunity to attack, there was a high chance that he could destroy the final mech. The final mech was charging up, and the current was injected into the mech through the cable. With a buzz, the mech moved. It started off at an extremely high speed, and as it ran towards Link, it quickly picked up the Black Spear and Thunder Assault Rifle from the weapon rack. The 3-meter-long Thunder Assault Rifle was a special edition, and each bullet was 30 to 50 centimeters long. The muzzle was blazing, and the bullets fired were more explosive, like howitzer. Link activated haste and searched for an opportunity in the city. He retracted his chi blade and picked up the magic box pistol. Armor-piercing bullets shot out like a cannonball. Some landed on the mech, and some missed. The Terminator's speed was surprisingly fast. The air-conducting grooves on its shoulders continuously absorbed air, and the spurts on its back sprayed out flames that gradually changed between red and blue to boost its speed. The moment the dagger left his hand, Link ran with it, back to back. 2 seconds later, he teleported back to the dagger's location. The magic box pistol's elemental bullet exploded, and a corrosive green poisonous mist fell on the polished mech, making a sizzling sound. The armor value on the top of the head 10, -10, -10. But very quickly, the final mech turned around and started firing. The situation turned back into one firing while the other was running. Link used the high speed provided by haste and blood rage to keep moving, using all kinds of methods to test the waters. The two sides were in a stalemate. The Terminator's firepower was too strong, and its movement speed and reaction speed were also very fast. The damage that Link caused was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. On the other hand, Link's movement speed was even faster. Other than preventing him from getting close, he could also avoid the enemy's bullets. However, Link noticed something important. Whenever the Apocalypse mech emptied its magazine, the city beneath it would open its gates and send out a new magazine. And a little embarrassed, "Vetra, come up and help me!" Link shouted. A moment later, the city trembled. King Kong tore through all kinds of metal layers and equipment. He punched and tore through the city. Fortunately, the mechanical pioneer reacted quickly. Otherwise, the feet of the final mech would have been bombarded by the sudden punch. King Kong punched a hole in the city, and the next second, he bared his teeth and covered the mech. "Benefactor, I see that your soul is incomplete and has long been unaccepted by the human world. It's all fate that we met today, so I'll do a good deed every day and send you to the Western Paradise for free, okay?" Both of them were about 10 meters tall, and King Kong's body looked even stronger. Professor Zhao snorted coldly, his voice transmitted through the mech. "I've been waiting for you." As soon as he finished speaking, the mecha advanced instead of retreating. It stood on the spot to withstand King Kong's collision with both hands. Suddenly, 4 metal pillars rose from the ground and something like a trap appeared beneath King Kong's feet. "Thank you for your good intentions. I have also prepared a big gift for you. Enjoy it." Suddenly, 2 strong currents shot out from the back of the final mech. The mech stepped on King Kong and did a backflip before landing on the ground with a loud bang. The 4 metal pillars produced a strong electromagnetic force that pressed King Kong to the ground. Vetra was smashed to the ground with a plop. He could not move his hands and feet, and the dense Buddhist light around him had dissipated a lot. King Kong tilted his head and looked at Link. He opened his mouth with difficulty and said, "My mission is complete. It's up to you now, Ying Luo." Link nodded. In the next second, the dagger left his hand and flew towards the Terminator. Dr. Zhao knew that Link's air blade could deal terrifying damage to armor. He didn't dare to let Link get close to him so easily and sped up to dodge. He took out the guns on his calves and aimed them at King Kong and Link. Boom! 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 The bullets in the gun were not ordinary bullets. When the bullets hit the ground, a shock wave spread through the metal surface of the city. King Kong was pressed to the ground by the electromagnetic force and trembled from the electric current that passed through. The moment before the electricity spread, Link flashed to the dagger's position and threw it again in the air. At the same time, he used the grappling hook to close the distance between him and the ground. "Keep hiding, I'll see what you can hide from." Before Dr. Zhao could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt that the power supply in the cable behind him had disappeared. In the next second, a giant creature appeared from the hole in the city. The tentacles crawled into the city through the hole and easily cut off the electric cable with a pair of black pincers. At the same time, the tentacles grabbed the mech from the back and restrained its limbs. It was a perfect scene of killing and binding. Link appeared where the dagger was. The impact power boots under his feet burst out with a strong push. The air blade was unsheathed again. He aimed at the main cable under the chest armor. Meanwhile, the tentacles dragon behind him was not idle either. The two giant pincers of its mouth opened and sprayed out poisonous mist in a fan shape, directly covering the mech's head. The highly corrosive poisonous fog could even corrode the reinforced concrete of the bunker, so the alloy of the mech was naturally not a problem. A sizzling sound was heard. Dr. Zhao's spirit was struggling, but the tentacles dragon's body was too huge. With the power cable cut, the only energy source was the energy source in its chest. It could only last for 10 minutes and could not be overpowered. Link pounced over. The air blade and the alloy collided, making a screeching sound. It completely penetrated the protective deck. Link stood on the chest of the mech and pushed in a little more. The entire mech started to shake as if it had short-circuited. A huge 3700 damage appeared above his head, accompanied by the continuous damage of the fan-shaped poisonous fog. 100, 100, 100. Dr. Zhao's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and the energy in his eyes was like that of a demon. The next second, the black cursed spear on the ground trembled and flew up into the air. It aimed at Link's back and staggered. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 472. Touching the dragon felt a black cursing force, and immediately stopped the fan-shaped spit, and he opened his mouth to remind him. The cursing spear is like a black lightning, leaving a vicious cursing energy in the air, rushing. When Link touched the dragon god the first time he issued a warning, he threw his flashing dagger and avoided the cursed spear. But in the next second, the cursing spear did not stop, but directly submerged into the chest cable of the terminal mecha with a click, and directly plugged it into the heart. The god of touch dragon let out a painful howl, and was also pierced by the cursed spear. At this moment, Link finally understood the plan of the mechanical pioneer. God of touching dragon tightly restricted the final mecha. With the double attack of Link and God of touching dragon, these 10,000 points of armor can only last for a while. Instead of being destroyed in vain, it is better to take one away. Dr. Zhao knew how fast Link was, and this spear was a lottery. Everything will be fine if you can stab Link, and you can take away touching dragon god if you miss it. The black air on the cursed spear was permeated, like a pair of invisible big hands, beginning to spread to the dragon god and the final mecha indiscriminately. The dragon god twisted his body and struggled, but found that the cursed spear was tightly entwined with it, and it was difficult to break free, and the cursed energy in the spear was still expanding outward, as if a conscious creature exuding endless physical curses, tightly enveloped the final Yan mecha and the dragon touching god. The curse was filled with black thunder, which was extremely terrifying. Haha, don't fight fearlessly. The target stabbed by the cursed spear can't be broken away. Enjoy your last time. Dr. Zhao's iron skull helmet is rare and hideous. Pressing the big red in the next second button, the several cables connecting the head and the body of the terminal mecha were all actively disconnected, separated from the body under the action of thrust, and the head popped out and went straight over Link's head. The shell of the terminal mech issued a red alarm signal, because the body and the head were separated, and the command was released. The self-destruction procedure of the final mech has been deployed, and the countdown to self-destruction is 30, 29, 28. Link looked at the painful and ferocious King Kong, then looked back at the wailing and struggling god of touch dragon. In the next second, Link threw a flashing dagger and quickly ran in front of King Kong. The energy knife cut off the 4 metal pillars. The electromagnetic force instantly dissipated, and the pressure like Mount Tai's top pressure disappeared, and King Kong relaxed. The God of Touch Dragon is handed over to you. Link patted King Kong and immediately pursued Dr. Zhao. King Kong glanced at the dragon god who was skewered with candied gourds, and jumped to the dragon god. Perceiving the vicious curse emanating from the spear, the Buddha shines on his body spontaneously. The Buddha's light body protected, King Kong grabbed the cursed spear with both hands, and the violent black lightning spread to his arms immediately, disappearing with the metallic luster, as if infected with some vicious disease. The black cursed tentacles of the cursed spear sensed the danger and gave birth to more black tentacles tightly entwining the terminal mecha and the dragon touch god. King Kong squeezed hard enough, and found that the cursed spear was not moving, and the alarm sound of the self-destructing program of the final mecha became more and more rapid, leaving less time for King Kong. King Kong clearly saw in the tactical eyepiece that the energy of the final mecha was getting higher and higher. Once this energy erupts completely, touching the chitin shell of the dragon god, even if it can stop the explosion, it will be more than good, not to mention the cursing spear is still inserted in the body. It is now with strong vitality and the same dark element, which can also resist the erosion of the curse. Once injured by the terminal mecha, the curse will definitely come in while you are sick and kill you. King Kong hesitated for a moment, his eyes suddenly became firm. Loosen the cursed spear with both hands, but directly grabbed the final mecha. Diamond itself is made of metal and has the ability to assimilate metal. Now the end mech is uncontrolled and belongs to no owner. The metal of the mech begins to melt and move along the arm of King Kong. But because King Kong itself is in the state of Arhat's wrath, these transferred metals cannot be integrated with King Kong to increase the size, but on the surface of King Kong's body, the shape of the final mecha is restored. In just 10 seconds, the final mecha became the outer shell of the King Kong, the outer armor, and the giant battle armor, which became a kind of binding. The most terrible thing is that the countdown command on the end mech did not disappear because of the transfer, and it continues. King Kong grabbed the cursed spear again and recited the Sutra Buddhist scriptures. Buddhism sound-filled, golden Sanskrit words hit the black cursed spear, golden light and black thunder entangled, erupting strange waves. In the cursed spear, a black fog splashed out, accompanied by the terrifying sound of ghosts crying and wolf howling. The cursed spear is a horrible weapon formed by the mechanical pioneers using chaotic crystals to condense the wraith spirits. In the early days when the mechanical pioneers established the mechanical city, they used humans to conduct many dream experiments. Those souls who died in the experiment will be collected in the chaos crystal. The mechanical pioneers have always believed that the human soul can generate dream energy through transformation, and even the resentful spirits after death can also be transformed into corresponding energy, but they have not yet mastered the method. But these resentful spirits can't just be thrown away. When you find a way, the stored resentful spirits are a powerful energy. After this, whether it was a zealot who was killed or a human battery whose soul was exhausted, the wraith spirit was collected into the chaos crystal. When the number of wraiths affected the quality, the mechanical pioneer discovered that the container of chaos crystal also carried the vicious curse of wraiths, and became a powerful weapon that sucked life and spread the curse. King Kong's death curse is extremely effective, and the psychic abilities of the Holy Light and Buddha Light, which have a bright nature, are simply the nemesis of the resentful spirit. The cursed spear shone with black light, and the evil spirits screamed and struggled in the spear. After being overpowered, the soul was liberated, and the liberated expression could even be clearly seen the moment it dissipated. The ticking sound of the final mecha is getting faster and faster, blinking in the peaceful and solemn Sanskrit sound and the free wailing of the resentful spirit, which is the least emotional of the three voices. The resentful spirit in the cursed spear is like catkins, struggling to escape from the spear, reborn and detached. The resentful tentacles that originally bound the dragon god were greatly reduced in strength, and the dragon god was painfully weakened, and he twisted his body to escape a little bit. More and more wraith spirits on the cursed spear were overtaken, and strange things happened. The cursed spear that originally had black light flashing and resentful spirits flying away, at this time, was purified, and it was actually emitting pure golden light. The cursed spear finally loosened, and Jin Gang yanked hard and pulled the spear out of the body of the dragon god. "Get out of here!" King Kong shouted and ran in the opposite direction with the cursing spear. Touching the dragon god neighed, he slammed his head down along the hollow of the mechanical city, roared and dusted, entered the underground deep dragon into the abyss, and began to heal the blood. King Kong stopped reciting the death mantra, but found a remote place and sat on the ground. The cursing spear was placed horizontally between his arms, his hands were knotted */ marked, and he murmured, "There is a time for life, and death is in order." The explosive power of the final mecha on his body was terrifying, and now it could not be solved. King Kong was ready to resist. Behind King Kong, a half-hidden Buddha condensed in the void. He looked at King Kong, who was silly and couldn't help asking, "If is not empty, how can you become a Buddha? How can you give up?" This remark was like Hong Zhongdalu. King Kong's body stagnated, but he was speechless to refute. A ray of light was born from the hands of the void Buddha, and it shot directly at the King Kong. In the light, there seemed to be the 9 heavens great Brahma, descending to the earth in person. If King Kong has enlightened, his hands are facing the sky, and the Sanskrit voice rolls, "Welcome the Buddha to the West." With a burst of magnificent Buddha light, the countdown to the final mecha came to an end. A white light suddenly rose, and then a violent explosion flooded the sky above the mechanical city. The shock wave spread, and the metal on the surface of the machine city was twisted and deformed under high temperature and high pressure. At this moment, Link, who was chasing the mechanical pioneers to the inside of the mechanical city, heard the deafening, doomsday-like explosions and vibrations above his head. He could not help but look at the top of his head. At the same time, he entered the Swarm Commander mode to view King Kong's status. It doesn't matter if you don't check, just check Link's brows slightly. In Swarm Commander mode, all pets show a bright spot, but this bright spot of King Kong at this moment is different from other pets on the battlefield. When it is bright, it is as bright as stars. When it is dim, it almost disappears, and it quickly switches back and forth between the two states. While Link tried to communicate and manipulate King Kong in the commander mode, he could feel the presence of the opponent, but he could not get any response. It's as if, like falling asleep. "Your pet is dead, thanks to you." Dr. Zhao's icy sarcasm, but did not touch Link's heartstrings, but ushered in Link's taunts. "Is there any whole cards? Continue to show them, I will continue." The two quickly shuttled through the inside of the machine city, and the mechanical pioneer constantly used his mind to control when he fled, imposing obstacles on Link. But Link's figure is extremely fast, and coupled with the support-style air energy knife that cuts the metal armor, with the blessing of 60 layers of blood anger, it is simply a blocking and killing the god, and the Buddha blocking and killing the Buddha. The whole card? You will know soon. Dr. Zhao is still on the run and enters the war state of the machine city. All the buildings are contained inside. At this time, inside the mechanical city, it was like an inverted small city, extremely magical. Looking up, you can see the upside-down spires and buildings. Dr. Zhao didn't expect to dispatch the end mecha and couldn't help getting Link. His back was stabbed to the heart. Temporary bandagement during the time of the Iron Throne. Some modules are still damaged and unable to exert their full strength. Link hung behind, chasing him, not giving him a chance to breathe and change the module. Dr. Zhao observed the situation outside while fleeing. After Benjamin led 300 cavalry into the position, the war has completely fallen into a one-sided situation. The power of the Steppenwolf cavalry is extremely terrifying, and Link's other pets or helpers have eliminated all the Iron Council elders on the field. Now the entire battlefield is extremely chaotic, and the dragons have no leaders. After Dr. Zhao's brief assessment, it was even reached the point where it would be difficult for him to kill Link. The mechanic city can't hold it anymore. Now if you want to make a complete comeback, there is only one way. The purple energy in the eyes of the mechanical pioneer was very sharp. This time, it's the real last card. The mechanical pioneers hung their hands in the air and twisted, and the whole mechanical city made a sound of sour metal rubbing. Link chased after him, and the inside of the mechanical city suddenly changed. All the buildings, gears, ties, and modules were all rotated and twisted according to the rules, changing their forms to restore their original appearance. The city hung upside down gradually turned around, giving people a sense of the senses turning around. There are more and more obstacles around, and things that change and twist are dazzling. Even at Link's speed, you have to be distracted and guarded. Otherwise, if you are hit by hundreds of tons of steel buildings, the impact is no less than an attack. Link used his body shape and flashing dagger to flash around, rushing across the surface of the twisted building, closely behind the mechanical pioneer. When the mechanical city was restored to its original state, the mechanical pioneer appeared under the unique silo of the mechanical city. The mechanical pioneer quickly walked towards the tunnel, and the electric power surging at the tip of his finger activated the mechanical guards on both sides. Guard, stop the intruder. The shape of the mechanical guard here is purely spherical, and there is a mosaic indicator screen on the dark and smooth surface. At this time, the mechanical voice print is displayed, yes. Link jumped to the hallway, saw 8 black waiting in line, and kept moving forward. The mechanical pioneer walked into the silo elevator, looked at the coming Link, and even waved his hand provocatively to bid farewell. The elevator door slowly closed, and the mechanical pioneer consciousness connected the entire silo, and began preparations for launch. This is the highest level plan of the mechanic city, and it hasn't been tested yet. Even other people, including the religious elders, did not know the existence of this plan. Because it has not been tested, the reliability cannot be guaranteed. Whether it was a success or a failure, even the mechanical pioneers did not know. However, as long as the launch is successful, then Dr. Zhao will have the confidence to turn defeat into victory, and even the entire waste Saturn will crawl under his feet. Link, you forced all of this. In the corridor, Link threw a flashing dagger, swung the air knife in a violent figure, but saw 8 black rolling back and forth to dodge, forming a similar force field space at the same time, emitting high-frequency vibrations, shocking Link's spirit. Link turned on the psychic magnetic field beam of the Crown of Mind, and then the 1,650 points of damage absorbed by the nano-combat suit armor defense were released at once. The handheld air energy knife swiped and quickly cleared the field to solve these black of spiritual remote sensing. Draw an X on the elevator door, kick the elevator open with one kick, the grappling hook of Link's multifunctional combat equipment locks the top, and jumps off the elevator. Boom! The mechanical pioneer was manipulating it mentally, and the top of the elevator suddenly collapsed, and the lights flickered and some short circuits. In the next second, the energetic particles of the air energy knife penetrated the top of the elevator and pierced the mechanical pioneer. Crackling, sparks splashing everywhere. The mechanical pioneer blocked the gas energy knife with his arms, but black smoke appeared on his wrist, and it was scorched to the naked eye. Even the carefully crafted alloy body cannot block the flow of high-energy particles unharmed. Ding! The elevator doors opened slowly. The mechanical pioneer casually restrained Link from chasing by a confinement force field, and then rushed out to the launch pad. In this underground shaft, a rocket waiting to be launched appeared in Link's eyes. Dr. Zhao, I want to escape the waste Saturn by rocket. The elevator space was narrow, and the mechanical pioneer released the imprisoned force field. Seeing that the force field under his feet took effect, he was controlled. Link immediately dropped a smoke bomb. At the moment when the force field took effect, he sneaked into the dimensional space, evading this control dangerously. Dr. Zhao, who was on the run, could no longer care about Link behind him. The rocket is right in front of him, as long as he enters the rocket and launches a huge anti-magnetic frenzy, no one can stop him from leaving. Puff! The sound of piercing machinery. With Link's breathing slightly. This time, I didn't stab. A huge -10,086 emerged from the head of the mechanical pioneer. The skull mask of the mechanical pioneer Taiking was completely penetrated. www.mtlnovel.com. The stream of high-energy particles brought out some cerebrospinal fluid and debris. Pioneer Mechanical was stiff, and there was a burst of electric current in the cracks in his brain. Dr. Zhao stretched out his hand to pinch the chi energy knife that passed through his head, and then twisted his body 180 degrees and fisted Link. -977. -1011. -1321. High frequency, high damaging attacks made Link overwhelmed. See the opportunity, activate the elemental ring in the pair of punches, and use the elemental control skills. Elemental ring. A thick flame burst out, following Link's fist, and instantly submerged the mechanical pioneer in the sea of fire. But at the same time, the mechanical pioneer's fist suddenly popped out, hitting Link's chest. Like a bull hitting the chest, Link directly flew out. The flames were burning, and the body in the flames was still moving mechanically. Link clutched his chest and saw that he had only more than 1,000 points of blood left, and immediately used the advanced martial arts technique Yi Jinjing. Yi Jinjing LV10, every 1 point of energy can be converted into 5 points of life. Every 5 points of life can be converted into 1 point of energy. Link used 300 energy to convert 1500 health points and finally felt that his condition improved. Just as Link watched the mechanical pioneer Dr. Zhao's blood volume drop rapidly, approaching zero, a prompt suddenly appeared from the system. Your damage reduces the health of the mechanical pioneer to 1 point and activates the opponent's specialties data lock. The flame continues to burn, but the HP of the mechanical pioneer stops at 1 point, and it doesn't move. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 473. Data Lock. The effect is similar to Blood Lock, the effect is extremely abnormal. Dr. Zhao staggered a few steps, then couldn't support it completely and collapsed. The purple reactor inside the body, after falling down, also lost the wick of a candle, gradually extinguishing. At this moment, the roaring rocket landing hatch opened, and Dr. Zhao was swept in by the skull mask traversed by the chi knife. After a while, Dr. Zhao's voice rang from the rocket, "Link, everything is not over yet." The rocket roared, the air trembled, and the silo opened within a predetermined time. After the propeller was successfully ignited, it slowly lifted into the air and took off, setting off countless smoke and hot air waves. Link was in the rocket silo, and the heat generated by the jet was extremely terrifying. Link ran into the elevator for the first time and used his claws to rise. The waves of fire are surging to the sky, like a fierce beast, closely behind Link. After escaping the elevator, Link quickly left the corridor, and finally hid in the corner. Flames and smoke spewed out, instantly filling the entire underground platform. Link covered his nose and mouth, and in the next second he saw tiny lightning flashes in the smoke and dust, and he looked at dust everywhere. Link rushed for the first time and escaped from the machine city at the fastest speed. As soon as he came to the surface, Link felt a wave of violent violence at his feet tearing the entire mechanical city. The rocket has completely come out of the silo, dragging tail flames and dense smoke into the air, and the accelerated explosion continuously hits everyone's eardrums. Link contacted Li Ziqian with a voice worm, "Quickly, order everyone to retreat and let Dave turn on the force field protection." After a while, Link saw a blue light curtain appearing in his camp. The entire mechanical city made a tearing sound of acid teeth, and the metal twisted. The powerful repulsive force generated in the silo set off an anti-magnetic frenzy. Magnetism is like a violent wave, distorting all metals in the range and expanding. Link watched the rocket that was surging and flew to a high place, and once again switched the sound worm to connect with Forbes. "Afu, I can release people later. After all, quickly fled the machine city. The huge mechanical city was distorted, and from the abandoned body at the location of the silo, a mountain whistling and tsunami-like inverse magnetism erupted. Electromagnetic repulsion tore the mechanical city in half. With the terrible noise, many low-level mechanical warriors and players fainted directly. The million-ton machinery city was torn in half, pushed back by the huge repulsion. The fainted mechanical warriors and players were crushed into meat sauce by a mechanical city like Mount Tai, and the others fled. The first time they were dumbfounded, they mechanically obeyed the command and hid back into the defensive field. Link's pets reacted very quickly, hiding under the sand one after another, and swiftly ran away, or boarded wolf cavalry. The slow-moving ones, such as the undead and mummies, were all taken up by the harpy and flew back to the defensive field. The entire frontal battlefield seemed to be the end of the world. Millions of tons of the mechanical city were torn in two, and they were separated. One half rushed to the frontal battlefield, and the other half was directly erected on the Goria Grand Canal to cut the flow of the canal. The diamagnetic energy continues to spread, and the mecha and exoskeleton armor of the mechanical apostle that collapsed and fled, fell apart under the action of the diamagnetic frenzy, and those body tissues replaced the mechanical parts, all exploded, all weapons become a pile of scrap iron parts. Link flashed daggers, claws, flight suits, rush skills, all available, and finally took a step forward, hiding in the protective force field before the diamagnetic frenzy. The electromagnetic explosion carries strong pulses and magnetic repulsion, and tears apart. The powerful energy destroyed the Goria Grand Canal, the canal water rushed and burst, and the sand and gravel in the mechanical city were all over the sky, flying hundreds of meters high. Under the reverse magnetic frenzy, all the metal and electronic facilities that were not within the protection range were destroyed and turned into scrap copper and iron. The anti-magnetic frenzy launched an impact on the defensive force field, and the terrifying energy once distorted the defensive force field. The warriors and players hiding in it looked at the blue cover over their heads with horror, and did not dare to breathe. Everyone looked at the crushed mechanical elite outside the defensive field, their bodies falling apart, and their deaths were tragic. The entire mechanical city also collapsed in the repeated impact. The miracle that stood on the Grand Canal of Goria for 30 years collapsed and was destroyed in one fell swoop. After several shocks, the anti-magnetic frenzy finally stopped, and the entire desert battlefield was in ruins, fragmented mechanical parts and metal scraps, scattered randomly, immersed in the sand, gleaming under the sun, like stars in the day. Dave looked at the defensive force field with only 20% of energy left, wiped the sweat on his forehead, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's dangerous. If there are more rounds of inverse magnetic frenzy, it is estimated that these front lines all the mobile units will be over. Dave's remarks are not alarmist. Once the diamagnetic frenzy blows in, even the frontline artillery, military trucks, tanks, armored vehicles, armed jeeps, including the weapons in everyone's hands, will all be turned into scrap copper and iron. This time, all the mechanized forces of the Shadow were dispatched. If all of them were damaged here, the Shadow would completely lose their mobility, which is equivalent to pushing from a modern civilization to a primitive man who drank blood. Link's multifunctional combat colony parachute module opened and slowly landed near the Chinese command vehicle. Li Ziqian's face was dusty and there were traces of fighting on his body. After seeing Link, he couldn't wait to ask, "General, the rocket in the sky is..." Just before the diamagnetic frenzy started, he saw a rocket lift off, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. Link raised his head and glanced. The rocket that Dr. Zhao was riding on was already flying very high, dragging a very long tail of smoke in the air, so small that only a small spot as large as a sesame seed could be seen. You guessed it, there is a mechanical pioneer in the rocket, let him escape. Li Ziqian let out a deep breath, inexplicably regretful. The mechanical pioneer is the head of the mechanical god cult, and his will lies. As long as he is not dead, then the mechanical god cult has a chance to come back. This victory will not be complete. If it's okay to escape on the ground, they can still pursue it. But now the other party actually created a rocket to escape the waste Saturn and hit in space. The other forces of the waste Saturn have not mastered the rocket launch technology, and have no way to chase into space. Link saw Li Ziqian's expression all over his eyes and smiled. Is it a pity? Li Ziqian did not shy away, nodded. If the enemy's leader fails to resolve it, the battle cannot be called a big victory or a success. Link smiled. If I said, I put it on purpose. Li Ziqian's expression came to an abrupt end in desperation. His expression experienced shock, loss, disbelief, and even confusion in a very short time. Li Ziqian didn't understand why Link would let such a great opportunity pass. You must know that letting the other party escape on a rocket basically means that they cannot be eliminated in the future. Link smiled, just like selling Guanzi to see Li Ziqian's stunned expression. Do you think I let go of the mechanical pioneer? No, I just let go of the rocket. The only rocket in Mechanic City, the driving technology and rocket structure are only known by the mechanical pioneers. If you kill him, this rocket will be difficult to lift off in the short term. Link said. I used my thumb and index finger to compare a circle, and then aimed at the sky. The center of the hollow circle focused on the rocket that had just left the atmosphere of the waste Saturn. As for the mechanical pioneer, just temporarily let him act as a pilot. When the satellite is officially merged into orbit, he will be fine. Li Ziqian opened his mouth several times, but he didn't know where to start. Rockets, satellites? After entering the orbit of the waste Saturn, is there any way to solve the mechanical pioneer? Could it be that Link left a secret trick on the mechanical pioneer? As the two talked, Afu ran over from a distance, gasping for breath. Boss, I'm ready, when will I release people? Link looked up at the sky, his long white tail was broken, and the rocket was invisible to the naked eye. All right, wait a minute. Then he glanced at the dying mechanical sect member outside the protective force field, and said to Li Ziqian, the war is not over yet, let's take someone to clean the battlefield. Li Ziqian glanced at the devastated battlefield. There were not only the corpses of the enemy, but also the corpses of many Shadow soldiers. His expression immediately became serious, and he saluted Link. I will arrange the aftermath work. Many of the players were killed by the wave of inverse magnetic frenzy just now, and the moment left to escape is rejoicing for the rest of their lives. Many lamented the collapse of the mechanical city, and some players looked up and pointed to the rocket in the sky. Obviously, apart from the frontal battle, they knew nothing about the cause of the series of incidents that just happened. Dave came out of the control room and walked to Link's side. He sighed as he looked at the machine city that was torn in half. I don't know how much of the person who was caught as a battery can survive. With Helen's experience, Dave felt the same way. After a while, Dave asked curiously, General, let go of the mechanical pioneer, is it really safe? Dave's question is obviously different from that of Li Ziqian. The rocket liftoff and the reverse magnetic frenzy just now can be seen as the last resort and hole cards of the mechanical pioneer, but because Link ran with the mechanical pioneer at first, he kept using the hole cards. Judging from it, it was obviously possible. And just now in the armored car, I also heard the conversation between Link and Li Ziqian. The corner of Link's mouth raised slightly, boasting, don't forget, I am the son of prophecy, and I never do things that are uncertain. Hurry up and monitor in the car, the war is not over until the last scene. Dave was stunned for a moment, then walked into the armored car in a daze, pondering what Link said. What do you mean by this, surveillance? The war is still near the last scene. After a while, Dave's eyes lit up and thought of a possibility. Could it be that the mechanical pioneer still doesn't give up and wants to launch a new round of attack? Dave's mouth trembled, as if thinking of a possibility. If the attack is on orbit, the only way is to use rocket-borne missiles, using the supergravity of space and the impact of missiles to cause large-scale impact. But he just looked at the launch process, speed, and structure of the entire rocket. Even if it is equipped with offensive missiles, the number will not exceed 3. Otherwise, the capacity of the rocket will not be enough to fly to the orbit of the waste Saturn. The second possibility is to use satellite signals for attack control. There have been cases before Mechanic City deciphering the military telephone lines of Shadow and eavesdropping on secrets. Now using satellites, it is possible to invade and control various networks of Shadow in outer space. Thinking of this, Dave was so excited that he immediately entered instructions to monitor the command system on the front line. When Dave entered the background system to check, he suddenly found that the interface was stuck. After inputting instructions, the page did not respond and kept controlling. Sweat dripped from his forehead again. Dave kept trying and even took out a special encrypted USB flash drive to inject a protection program into the main control system of the armored vehicle. Only after startup, there is only a large red warning text on the screen. System prohibits reading and writing. Dave's heart trembled. General, the last scene, coming. When Link outside the car heard this, his eyes lit up, and he found a radio communication device to stick to his ear. Immediately, he saw the soldiers in the tank all probed out with a dazed expression, but the tank barrel gradually twisted. There are also various radio communication devices worn by the soldiers. At this moment, the electric current is sizzling and the communication channel is lost. At the same time, all the TV picture signals in Shenmue City and Shadow became snowflake screens, losing their original connections. The people in the city looked at each other, completely unaware of what was going on. They all sat in front of the TV waiting for frontline reports and the latest news about the war, but the picture suddenly disappeared. Many people got up, patted the bottom of the TV, squatted, adjusted the signal pod or antenna. After a while, the picture returned to normal, but the scene changed from the studio to an unfamiliar place that looked slightly chaotic. In the picture, you can see a black circle outside a circular window at the back. A metal skull's head suddenly appeared in the screen, and the center of the head could be seen torn apart, as if it had been pricked by something, making it hollow. There are several mechanical arms around, holding various materials or tools to repair and fill the metal skull head. Presumably this is the first time you have seen my appearance. Let me introduce myself to you. I was born in the end of Sand and Fire, the cedar of eternal ideas, the pioneer of the path of mechanics, the faith of all the exiled, the pursuit of mechanical fanatics and converts, the owner of the mechanical city, the only king of the Gale Desert, the father of Goria, the avenger of the Free Federation, the initiator of the mechanical revolution. I am the mechanical of Waste Saturn. The head of the mechanical gods, Dr. Zhao. Although the mechanic city has fallen, the idea of mechanicism will never die. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I am currently broadcasting for you 200 kilometers above the waste Saturn in low Earth orbit. Look at your mobile phones. All received the information. Look at your radio again, if it is all my voice. Yes, I am in space and can invade all signal equipment. From now on, you will listen to the great mechanical beliefs and eternal ideas every day. The Church of Mechanical God will never die. From among you, new believers will be born. Explore eternal truth with me and join glorious evolution. Finally, Link, I want to tell you that I won this game. Shenmue City, Shadow, shocked. Everyone panicked. The mechanical pioneers entered space and could invade the network wantonly. People's normal creatures cannot be guaranteed. Some older people even thought of the situation when Shadow was just rebuilt 20 or 30 years ago. Many people were deceived because they lost their faith, and their wives and families broke up. After Link watched the mechanical pioneer's speech in the armored car, the faces of Dave and Afo around him changed wildly. The speech of the mechanical pioneer covers the entire Shadow and Shenmue City, as well as the front line. Once these panic remarks permeate, they will hit the confidence of the citizens and soldiers, which can easily cause mutiny and chaos. Link grinned after reading it. The mechanical pioneers in the picture have their heads cracked, and they even utterly confess that they are determined to win. Look at him, he is so ordinary, yet so confident. Link patted Ah Fu on the shoulder. "Ah Fu, open the coffin, let Troy." Ah Fu happily summoned out of the coffin palace, grinning. "Good." Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 474. Ah Fu opened the coffin palace, and a blue and green consciousness energy body appeared from it. The Trojan energy body was almost frozen into substance, and the details of the body were clearly visible. The mechanical pioneer is already in place, and the signal equipment in Shadu, Shenmue City, and the battlefield have been controlled, and then it depends on your performance. Link put his hands in front of his chest, with a tricky smirk at the corner of his mouth. Troy's eyes flickered, full of excitement. "I have been waiting for this day for a long time." Since Link took him out of the underground base, Troy looked forward to a free life one day. After that, Link fulfilled his promise and placed Troy in the data center, responsible for the information and data processing of Shadu and Shenmue City. During this period, Link successfully used his own personality charm, as well as the spiritual construction of a Fu and Macaw 3 times a day, and successfully made Troy's loyalty reach 100 points. In this decisive battle of Goria, Link asked a Fu to take Troy, and before the final scene, he refused to show Troy, so as not to be detected by the mechanical pioneer and the plan would fail. Yes, as a veteran old toy who played Destiny for 6 years in his previous life, Link still has fresh memories of this plot. The real trump card of the mechanical pioneer is never the end of the anti-magnetic frenzy, but the only rocket with satellites hidden in the silo of the mechanical city. In the previous life, the mechanical pioneer was besieged by the Freedom Federation. It happened that a team of players destroyed the silo, causing the launch to fail, and the mechanical pioneer and the rocket blew up. Later, scientists from the Freedom Federation discovered satellite fragments from the wreckage of the rocket. After the efforts of the 3 parties, the satellite structure was finally restored and the space industry began to vigorously develop. This restored satellite is the predecessor of the Sky Eye satellite design blueprint obtained by Link, the first satellite of the waste Saturn. Therefore, on the eve of the Goria War, Link arranged Troy as a backhand in the game and deliberately let go of the mechanical pioneer, just to make the satellite launch successfully and to confirm the effect. "Alright, the inspection is complete, now is the time to hand over." The Trojan energy body directly penetrated into the main control computer in front of Dave, and then turned into data, which quickly spread across the entire battlefield like a virus. Using the military's private network as a springboard, Troy's data entities simultaneously entered Shenmue City and Shadu. The TV screen switched from satellite to a gray and white flashing snowflake. The radio signal was also interrupted at this moment. Panic-spreading citizens looked at the picture that suddenly disappeared. They still didn't understand what happened. They thought it was the ultimatum of the mechanical pioneers. "It's over, it's all over. If we fail to kill the mechanical pioneer, we will all live under the watch of the mechanical god." The situation is even more uncontrollable now. The seeds of the cult will take root in Shadu. Unless we cut off all networks and return to the Stone Age, no one can solve the mechanical pioneers. Shadu, it's over. Free Federation, it's over. Panic is also spreading in Shadu TV station. All the staff were in a hurry, and the mechanical pioneer invaded the TV station signal and gave a speech to the whole city. They have shut down the live broadcast, but the words of the mechanical pioneers still came on the TV screen. Anna put her hands in her chest, her expression was extremely serious. "Turn off all live signals and pull off the main gate of the signal tower. In addition, we will urgently arrange the number 2 studio to be prepared. After the mechanical pioneer reads, the signal will be restored as soon as possible. The whole city will pacify and try to buy time for Link." Commands came out of the office clearly. Anna's white forehead oozes fine sweat and her palms are wet. She was also very nervous when she encountered this kind of thing for the first time. But since she is one of the leaders of the TV station, she must stick to her post, live up to Link's trust and share the worries for him. But not long after the order was given, the TV screen was suddenly replaced and turned into a grey snowflake. Anna was a little surprised. The live broadcast suddenly lost the signal, and at the same time the troubleshooting radio rang. "Director, the live broadcast is suddenly interrupted, but we still can't control it, and we still don't have control." Anna made a decisive decision: first pull off the main gate of the signal tower, and must not let the mechanical pioneer speak through the TV station again. The next second, a phantom composed of blue and green signals suddenly appeared on the monitor in Anna's office. "Chiefin, I am the Troy of the data center. At present, the electronic invasion of Shadu, Shenmue City, and the frontline army has been resolved. I need to adjust the direction of all the annunciators to the sky." Anna froze for a moment. Although she didn't understand why things turned around in a flash, she knew Troy. When the data center was officially completed and put into operation, she personally interviewed. After the interview, Anna learned from Link that the main purpose of this data center was to store the knowledge copied from the Mechanic City, as well as a place of shelter for Troy in the underground base of Deathmire. "Okay, I will order now." Anna acted vigorously and immediately took out the walkie-talkie. "Hey, the maintenance team. Give up the action plan. Now go to the electric control room and connect all the backup annunciators. At the same time, all the generator sets are turned on, ready for overload. Equipment group, now immediately adjust the direction of all the annunciators to face the sky, hurry." The staff who received the order were stupid, and only a few seconds later, the completely opposite task was released. However, based on Anna's usual prestige in the TV station, although the staff were confused, they still followed the order. Troy in the monitor bowed slightly. "Thank you, Mr. An, for your assistance. All annunciators are turned on and the direction is adjusted to the sky." Troy relied on the huge capacity signals generated by these signal towers and signalizers to successfully launch itself into space in the form of electric waves in the data state. The waste Saturn orbits near the Earth, and a solitary satellite unfolds 2 solar panels and orbits the planet like wings. The mechanical pioneer is a little panicked at the moment. "Just now, my own data consciousness invaded the entire Shadu through satellite signals. I just gave a public speech to 45 million Shadu citizens, spreading eternal ideas, and disarming Link, and then I am preparing to control the tanks on the front of Shadu. All kinds of mechanized equipment, such as armored vehicles, completely destroyed them by firing at each other. But at this time, the mechanical pioneer suddenly discovered that his control connection with the front line, Shenmue City, and Shadu had been broken. It was as if something had cut off his signal abruptly. The mechanical pioneer immediately retrieved the operation record and discovered that it was a string of mysterious codes that caused the word to be disconnected. The operation mode of this string of codes is extremely overbearing, as if possessing intelligence, removing itself from various devices. At the same time, the operation speed and running speed were extremely fast. In just 10 seconds, he took all the equipment of the front line, Shenmue City, and Shadu that he invaded into his own hands intact. The mechanical pioneer suddenly panicked, and the brain soaked in the solution beats twice as fast. This is not a good sign. A bad premonition flooded the brain. But soon, countless green mysterious codes suddenly appeared on the operation panel and screen on the satellite. Swipe across the black screen like a waterfall. A human face formed by the dislocation of the green mysterious code appeared on the machine screen. "Hello, Dr. Zhao, I did not expect that our first meeting would be in this environment." Dr. Zhao's skull helmet barely repaired 1/10, and suddenly found that he had lost all authority to the satellite, and even the mechanical arm that was repairing his head stopped moving behind him. "Who are you?" As Dr. Zhao talked, he figured out how to use data awareness to fight for control. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Troy, the former special researcher of the Special Research Section of the Dragon Eagle Defense Bureau of the Confederacy of the Fey Confederation, who died in the nuclear war 43 years ago, which is what you call the Liquidation Day. Coincidentally, in the form of data, I was lingering in the underground base in the quagmire of death until General Lin arrived and rescued me. In addition, you don't have to struggle relying on satellite launch data awareness to invade the ground system. It seems unpredictable and high-end to ordinary people, but to you and me, it is only a pediatric. Now you are lingering, close to dying, not my opponent. Yes. Let's talk about the time of struggle. Dr. Zhao was silent for a moment, and said, so what did Link promise you to let you follow him so willingly? Now that you have come here, you naturally know the power of this moon. If you and I join hands, you can say that the waste Saturn is not any force as our opponent. We can invade ground equipment at will, spread ideas, cultivate our own forces, and finally turn the entire planet into an ideal Garden of Eden. I have assessed that with the current technology of waste Saturn, there is no power to make rockets. The blueprints of the rockets in Mechanic City are all kept in my mind, and there is no information left on the ground. If they want to build rockets, by then breaking the blockade through to conscious invasion, they can limit the technological level of the waste Saturn forever. The blueprint described by Dr. Zhao is very attractive. The two people's data awareness capabilities, coupled with the only satellite, can completely control and block the entire waste Saturn, and become the unique king of the waste Saturn. The Troy formed by the green code on the screen was indifferent, even with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Although Dr. Zhao's proposal is very good, I am sorry I still have to reject you. Dr. Zhao's brain beating more severely. He couldn't figure out such a tempting proposal. Why would the other party refuse it? Why? You and I share the waste of Saturn, which is much better than sending someone under the fence. Even, I am willing to be under you and obey your orders. Troy shook his head and sneered more severely, it's not the reason. At first, your vision limited your thinking. Compared with the future drawn by General Lin, your proposal is unattractive. In General Lin's eyes, the waste Saturn is not the end, but the starting point for the universe. Gather the power of the entire waste Saturn, enter the universe, and explore higher civilizations and dimensions. In this project, I will act like a navigator, and then see the wider universe is exposed to unimaginable and unattainable knowledge. Your thoughts are not at the same height, so you are not unjustly defeated. Although the skull helmet cannot move, this does not prevent Dr. Zhao from being stunned. Perhaps, we can also. Before Dr. Zhao finished speaking, the mechanical arm on the back started, and the probe pierced directly into the helmet's head to release an electric current. As the skull helmet twitched, Dr. Zhao's brain was completely dead, and the last point of damage was made up by the mechanical arm controlled by Troy. The Trojan data consciousness entity appeared, and part of it entered Dr. Zhao's necrotic brain, confirming his complete death. After a while, Troy retracted the data consciousness fluid, and a smile curled up at the corner of his mouth. Found it. Troy controls the satellites, and Shadu, Shenmue City, and frontline troops are also within his authority at the moment. The TV with flickering snowflakes on the ground suddenly resumed the signal, and the picture was still in the satellite cabin. It's just that the metal skull, which was broken into two parts from the mechanical pioneer, turned into an energy body full of blue and green power and vaguely visible human form. Please allow me to introduce myself first. I am Troy, a researcher in Shadu under the command of General Lin. I am in charge of the data center department. The mechanical pioneer has been resolved. You can stop panic and return to the house to prepare for the triumph of the Desert Emperor. Come back. After Troy said, the camera suddenly came to the universe outside the satellite. The surroundings are extremely dark, which is completely different from the dots that people see in the night sky. Then came the two-part skull of the mechanical pioneer, which went out of the outlet and spilled into the universe. All the Shadu people in front of the TV can see this scene clearly. The mechanical pioneer is dead, really dead. Even the head was banished to the dark and cold universe. Won? We won. The Church of Mechanical God has been completely wiped out, and the Gale Desert has returned to the embrace of Sand City after 30 years. Welcome the Emperor's return. The haze that had been trapped in the hearts of the people in Shadu swept away with the helmets that were banished from the TV screens. 20 years ago, all the people of Shadu had seen the power of the mechanical god cult. The enemy once hit the Weeping Valley. If the soldiers of the Free Federation did not fight to the death, Sha would no longer exist. Now the big trouble was finally resolved, the enemy general gave the head, and everyone happily celebrated on the street. The front line of the battlefield. All the soldiers heard Troy's speech through radio equipment. I finally let go of the heart I had just grabbed www.mtlnovel.com and breathed a sigh of relief. Benjamin urged the steppe wolf to the front of Link, and immediately dropped the wolf on one knee and put his hand on his chest to salute, "Welcome the Emperor." Li Ziqian and Afu followed close behind, kneeling on one knee, "Welcome the Emperor's return." The soldiers on the battlefield all knelt on one knee, and the Steppenwolf mounts even bowed their heads crawling. Collect free books, follow v.x Book Friends Basecamp, recommend your favorite novels and receive cash red envelopes. The whole battlefield crashed and fell, and shouted, "Congratulations on the return of the Emperor." The tens of thousands of players who participated in the battle were dumbfounded. Many players consciously knelt on one knee, some were standing, but they were all infected by the surrounding atmosphere and shouted slogans. The name of the Emperor resounds throughout the desert. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 475. At the same time, Link's system also jumped out a series of information. Your subordinate Troy LV40+, Elite, kills Dr. Zhao LV50+, Leader, your contribution rate is 99%, and you gain 198,000 experience. You complete the main city quest Sado Destroy Sickness, gain 1 million experience, obtain random specialties Steel Barrier, and activate the epic event Desert Heart. You activate the main city mission Shadow Warlord Rule. Task Reminder: after the destruction of the mechanical god cult, Sand City completely regained the southern desert, leaving only a wasteland gang. When the wasteland gang learns of the fall of the mechanical god cult, it will definitely increase its vigilance and force its troops. It's time for you to end the era of warlords. Task Reward: 800,000 experience, 3 random materials, 2 random skill books, activate the excellent event Blood Diamond. I Am a Legend task: kill 5 boss level NPCs with no less than 50, complete the progress, 1/5. The information was dazzling, and Lincoln looked at them one by one. The first is the kill experience. Because of Troy's participation, according to the contribution, Link took Troy and took away the remaining 2,000. The second is the main city task Sado Eliminate Sickness. The experience is trivial. Link immediately shines when he sees the specialty Steel Barrier. This is a rare growth specialty. It can only be said that the task is more difficult. The average level of the reward in the random pool is higher, and this thing is actually shaken out. Steel Barrier: after 1 hour from the battle, if there is no damage, your skin has steel defense power and produces a shield with a capacity of 5% of the total health. The shield is immune to abnormal conditions such as stiffness and dizziness. Although the specialty is blue quality, the effect is outstanding. In the previous life, it was a specialty that martial arts players were striving for. Although there are many skills and methods that can quickly break the shield in the middle and late stages, the most important thing about this specialty is not the shield that absorbs damage, but the ability to immune stiffness and dizziness attached to the shield, which is equivalent to providing you one's opportunity to avoid control. Don't underestimate the chance of exemption from control this time. In his previous life, in the second all-professional fighting competition, Pandora's Magister player Dragon Flying relied on this specialty to shine. Let the magician profession, who was originally bloodless and afraid of being close, bloomed with an unusual style. A chance to save the control effect can allow the magician to read out a powerful pyroblast smoothly and turn the balance of the game. The Steel Barrier is also a very strange way to obtain this specialty. First, one of the main and secondary professions must be martial arts, and secondly, you must receive 10 million melee damage, and then you will receive a task called Thousands of Practice. There is only one chance for this task. If you succeed, you can get this specialty. Once you fail, it means all your previous efforts were in vain. By the way, let me also say that this task is a single-player task and cannot be teamed up. Calculated based on a player's 2000 health points, 10 million melee damage means 5000 deaths, according to the 50 death limit per week, which is 100 weeks. According to the 3:1 flow rate of the game reality, it takes 33 weeks, which is 8 months, to get this talent. Of course, there will be some cases of opportunism, but it will not be less than half a year. This is a good thing. Link couldn't help sighing. This reward is worthy of this task for eliminating the mechanical gods who had important roles in version 1.0. The epic event Desert Heart is also worth looking forward to Link. In addition, the system also released the next stage of tasks to solve the mechanical gods, and the next thing to face is the Wasteland Gang. This place was guarded by warlords in the old days. After the Confederation of France and the Van Clan Church began the nuclear war to destroy, the commanders of the generals became kings, and the southern desert fell into the era of warlords ruled for 40 years. Later, the warlords felt threatened because of the rise of the Mechatronics Church, so they united to form the Wasteland Gang, ruled by districts, and helped each other. The Wasteland Gang is definitely going to be resolved. There are no other major warlords. The mercenaries, arsenal, and jeep assembly lines are almost always manned. Obtaining these things is of great help to Shadow's violent soldiers and enhancing military strength. At the same time, the Wasteland Gang has been entrenched in the desert, excavating various tombs in the desert, and there are many good things hidden in the treasure house of the major warlords. Solve the Wasteland and help Link to win. Finally, there is the I Am a Legend task to promote to the legendary level. Although the Mechanical Pioneer's last cut was made by Troy's loyalty reached 100 points, which is considered a diehard and can be counted as Link's subordinate. In addition, the contribution of Link and the Mechanical Pioneer in the battle was 99%, so the system also recognized the kill, and the progress became 1/5. After reading all the system prompts, Link glanced at the properties interface. After a war, the experience in his experience pool jumped from 7 figures to 8 figures. The total experience in the experience pool has reached 10.8 million. After exiting the system, Link looked around, and the soldiers and players began to clean the battlefield under the command of Li Ziqian. However, the two most obtrusive existences were missing in the crowd, Touching Dragon God and King Kong. Link entered the Insect Swarm Commander mode and saw the Dragon God lurking in the desert to heal and cultivate, and also saw a bright new star in the Machine City location, surpassing tens of thousands of other pets on the battlefield. Link quickly disappeared into the battlefield with his grappling hooks, flashing daggers and impact power boots, flashing around the ruins of the mechanical city, and finally came to the place where the stars flickered. Here is a piece of steel ruins. Under the impact of the reverse magnetic frenzy, it is difficult to see the half-machine city style again. And in the gaps between the piles of scrap steel, golden light broke through numerous obstacles and emitted. Link quickly stepped forward and removed the pile of twisted steel. The steel twisted and made a creak of sour teeth. After lifting the heavy objects, King Kong finally appeared in front of Link. I saw that the surface of its metal body was full of cracks, like cracks on glass, and under these half-finger-wide cracks, there was a bright golden light. There were dense cracks all over the body, and there were depressions and scorching black caused by explosions in many places on the body, and fragments of the terminal mecha were all around. Link's heart tightened. He was full of guilt when he saw King Kong alone with the self-destruction of the final mecha for helping to touch the Dragon God. And beside King Kong, there was a crystal emitting pure brilliance. Link recognized it as a cursed spear at a glance. The tip of the spear was blown into powder in the explosion, leaving only a lone stick. The dark things that were originally full of evil and curses were superseded by King Kong's death curse and the blessings of the Buddha's light from the palm of the Buddha Ying Zishan. As the saying goes, the extremely evil cursed spear is purified, and the chaotic crystal is filled with Buddha's light, but it becomes the most holy thing. Link squatted down and reached out to touch King Kong's body. As soon as his hand was placed on the surface of his body, a golden light was immediately aroused. Along with the intense heat, Link's hand bounced involuntarily. A sharp pain came from the palm of his hand. Under this seemingly calm surface, there is a surging energy, as if to break through the body and emit. And the silver surface already carries a strong high temperature. Link tried to check the status of King Kong. At this time, the system only gave 3 words: evolving. Evolving. Link widened his eyes, looking at the seriously injured King Kong, who was in a coma at the moment, a little unresponsive. Some time ago, King Kong had just experienced an evolution, but it has evolved again in such a short period of time. And the state of evolution this time is completely different from the past. Insect Swarm Commander: from the perspective, King Kong is full of vitality, and the burst of light even covers other pets on the battlefield. There is quite a grand occasion for the stars and Hao to compete for glory. But watching King Kong's whole body split apart and the state of golden light glowing inside, like a dying man, Link was extremely worried. Link sat beside the metal ruins, guarding King Kong. The golden light in the fissure was bright and dark, as if breathing. And every time it lights up, the cracks in the body are expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. Link rubbed his hands anxiously, his expression very solemn. Suddenly there was a sound of flapping wings. The macaw jumped from left to right in the ruins and came to Link's side. He glanced at King Kong, who had been cracked and unreacted. Before Link raised his hand to dissuade him, he threw himself, crying, "Go up! King Kong, you died so miserably." Then, there was a burst of burnt and grilled chicken wings. The macaw was agitated, standing next to it, exhaling non-stop with its big metal mouth, blowing its curled wings that were almost cooked. "Why is it so hot after death?" Link looked speechless. "Who said King Kong is dead? He is evolving." The macaw opened its mouth and was dumbfounded. After watching for a long time, it stretched out its scorched wings and pointed at it. "You call this evolution? This person is cracked." Link shrugged helplessly. If it hadn't been for the system to indicate that it was evolving, and the vitality of King Kong from the commander's perspective was flourishing, he also thought King Kong was dead. By the way, where did John and X fight? Why didn't they see it when they came out? Link asked, sitting on the ruins. The macaw flicked its wings. "Hey, there are people everywhere on the battlefield. It is estimated that the 2 of them were too restrained. They ran to the back of the Grand Canal of Garia to fight. It is estimated that they are already 5 or 6 kilometers away by now." Link is still very sure of John's strength. John and X are both legendary. Even if X is strengthened by the transformation of the mechanical pioneer, John also has a lot of whole cards, and the 2 are at best comparable. Link got up and stood on the height of the ruins of the mechanical city, looking south, and at a glance, he could see the gravel in the desert because of the fighting spirit. The 2 are still fighting. Watching the scene full of vitality, it is difficult to distinguish the victory or defeat in a short time. Link returned to King Kong, ready to wait for King Kong to complete evolution. The metal surface is getting hotter and hotter, the cracks are getting bigger and bigger, and hot metal liquid is gradually flowing out from the cracks. Get the red envelope. The cash or coin red envelope has been issued to your account. Follow the public account on WeChat Book Friends Basecamp to receive. Link frowned slightly. Diamond was originally metal. If the metal on the outside cracks and the liquid metal is lost under the high temperature inside, what kind of evolution is this? It was only soon that Link noticed the difference. After the loss of these liquefied metals, the metal surface also peeled and flowed. And in the hot molten metal, the source of light was gradually revealed. Link quickly realized that the focus of this evolution is not to increase in size, but to condense. The remaining metal essence after 1,000 tempering, all condensed together. The metal was scattered, and the metal shell of King Kong's body was peeled off, revealing a delicate part A curled up human figure. Link was speechless with excitement. King Kong was originally a gorilla, but it belongs to the human family in terms of biology. Could it be said that this time is really going to be reborn and evolved into an adult? The liquid metal on King Kong's body dripped, and more details were revealed. In the position of the arms and calves, you can clearly see that there are relatively long hairs that almost cover the limbs and neck. Although the hands, feet, head, and body shape are almost indistinguishable from humans, the hairs all over the body are still different from ordinary humans. The brilliance converged and fell into the center of the eyebrows. The chaotic crystal long sticks containing pure Buddha power scattered on the ground seemed to be suspended, surrounded by the King Kong, vigilant. The legendary spiritual guardian Buddha soldier. King Kong gradually opened his eyes, as if the beginning of Hongmeng, with confusion. But after a while, all the memories came, and the eyes were finally clear, and with the last bit of liquid metal stuck on his body, his hair trembled, and it was sprinkled into the sky like silver powder, which was so beautiful. King Kong grabbed the long crystal stick and turned over to Link with a somersault. He took a flower stick and put it on his shoulders at random, and immediately greeted Link with a smiling face, "Let the master worry." This image, this weapon, Link suddenly felt. The height of about 1.9 meters, the slender and dry body, is the remaining stainless steel after hard work. The surface is covered with metal robes, majestic, with deep eyes containing great wisdom. At the center of the eyebrows is the sixth lotus, which represents the great wisdom of Buddhism. Link gave a relieved smile, "It's fine if you are fine." King Kong and Link stared straight, and said straight, "I see that the master has doubts in his heart, so I will take care of the situation after you left." Link was startled. He didn't expect King Kong to be so smart now. He could read his thoughts from the eyes. www.lightnovel.com. After the master left, in order to save the dragon god, I took the initiative to choose and the final mecha combine and then purify the cursed spear. At the time when it was about to explode, I was ready to die as a martyr, but because I had superb resentment and merit, I was able to attain the status of Luo Hongguo. Although the explosion destroyed my external body and physical body, it also helped me temper my physical body, condense the Buddha's body, help me open up new horizons, promote this evolution, and even get the guardian Buddha soldier. In this way, the mechanical pioneers do have a destiny with me. King Kong finished speaking, glanced at his body and the chaotic crystal in his hand, and twisted his wrist lightly. The metal around the ruins was broken into powder, and then attracted to the chaotic crystal stick, forming a dense metal layer, and at the same time a new sharp spearhead was formed. "Master, you took my name, and now I ask you to name this Lord Protector." Link glanced at the Buddhist soldiers full of vast Buddha power, suppressing the evil spirits, and a bright light in his mind. It's better to call it Shaking the Sky. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 476. Link also added a summary, "Like a gun but not a gun, like a stick and not a stick, like a stick and not a stick. The shape changes with the heart. From the dark and cursed, it is purified into the light. Keeping the heaven and the earth is righteous and suppressing evils. So it's called Zhengsheng." King Kong's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly put the shaking sky between his arms and folded his hands together. "Thank you for the name, Master. Shaking Sky, a good name." Then I picked up the trembling sky and pulled a few flowers, whistling and generating wind, with a hint of lightning and golden light. "From now on, you will tremble the sky." In response, the sky quake hummed. The guardian Buddhist soldier is spiritual in itself and communicates with the master's mind. Link thought that King Kong was his pet, and the sky shaking was the King Kong guarding the Buddhist soldiers, whether he could also. I tried to stretch out my hand, but the sky shook the sky without any response. Link retracted his hand in embarrassment and put his back behind him, thinking that King Kong didn't notice. Unexpectedly, Although King Kong did not meet Link's eyes, he said, "Master, you have not studied the Dharma and cannot resonate with the Buddhist soldiers. It will not listen to your call." "Oh." The macaw on the side looked demented and hadn't figured out what happened. Link coughed awkwardly. "The King Kong, you need to study Buddhism, but being a man is also a science, and you can't let it go." King Kong bowed his head obediently, clasped his hands together, "Follow the teachings." Link glanced at King Kong and checked its updated information. Monster attributes. Name, King Kong. Quality, deep purple. Race, human. Attributes, metal affinity, psychic affinity. Level, 45+, leader. Comprehension skill 1, Tathagata Palm LV8, 9 style Tathagata Palm. King Kong comprehends the 8, each has its effect. Comprehension skill 2, Fa Tian Xiang Di LV1, King Kong turns on supernatural powers. Tian Xiang Di, body shape increases 20 times, power increases 10 times, lasts 1 hour, cooling time 5 days. Comprehension skill 3, combat mode, King Kong uses metal to make final armor to cover the whole body, providing various defense bonus effects. Comprehension skill 4, ever-changing, Shaking Sky has a variety of combat modes, which can be changed according to King Kong's mind. Initial skill 5, promote Buddhism, Vajra is well versed in Buddhist scriptures, all Buddhist items can increase the speed of Vajra cultivation. Initial skill 6, quoting scriptures, Vajra quoting different scriptures, you can get buffs in different states of the scriptures. Evaluation. The King Kong Arhat shakes the sky. He became a level 45 boss, his quality became dark purple, and he had 4 comprehension skills in a row. Link scratched the back of his head, it was ridiculous. King Kong's growth rate is staggering. At the beginning, it was just blue quality, and I didn't cultivate it much, so I just threw it aside and fiddled around. The result was inexplicable deep blue, purple, and deep purple, but every battle has a breakthrough. How do you feel that this rebirth is the protagonist? Even Link had a hunch that King Kong's dark blue quality is now just a step away from being promoted to legend. Isn't this guy going ahead of him? Link suddenly felt a sense of urgency. If he was surpassed by his pet, where would he put his old face? 9 types of Tathagata palms, now comprehend 8 of them. Link has a hunch that when King Kong comprehends the 9th formula, that is when it becomes a legend. Fa Tian Xiang Di, a skill stronger than Arhat's Wrath, or supernatural powers. The effect of LV1 is stronger than Arhat's Wrath of LV5. In the regular mode of King Kong, the height is 1.9 meters. After using magical powers, the height can reach 38 meters, but the cooling time is also longer. Combat mode is also a comprehension skill. The explosion of the final mecha was absorbed by King Kong, and the metal of this armor was also integrated with King Kong, turning it into a physical memory. Imagine that after turning on the law of heaven and earth, then another battle mode, like a Gundam. It is ever-changing, this skill is aimed at shaking the sky, and can change the battle form according to King Kong's heart in battle. The remaining 2 skills are the previous ones. After watching King Kong's skills, Link was a little jealous. King Kong's current skill effect, just give him a super plus level, it can be said that it has been out of the physical mode. On the other hand, Link's skills are simple and unpretentious. Now think about it, every time King Kong fights with the enemy, it seems that "you are destined to me" is really more than just talking. Last time I said it during the battle with Elder Sally, and then I got the opportunity to comprehend the new Tathagata Palm and learn the Wrath of Arhat. This time the battle with the final mecha is a reborn and new life. Link scratching his head tactically, "Dare to love is really predestined, not a catchphrase." The god of touching dragon is in good state of rejuvenation, King Kong is reborn, and Link no longer has any worries. He beckoned and said, "Go, let me go and take a look." Link was in a good mood and moved quickly through the ruins of the Mechanic City. When he came to the place where the diamagnetic frenzy had torn apart, he unfolded the hang-gliding wing directly, matched the claws and flashing daggers, and quickly moved to the other side of the Goria Grand Canal. King Kong's movement became more flexible. Facing the gully that broke into two pieces and was almost 100 meters away, King Kong directly threw the shaking sky out, and then jumped onto the spear, stepping on the spear in the air. Gliding. When Newton saw his old man, he cried out. Needless to say, the macaw can move quickly to make it reach the battlefield before either Link or King Kong. If it weren't for John and X's fighting surplus, it would even dare to get closer. When Link and King Kong arrived one after another, the macaw complained, "You are running too slow, so I have to wait for you here under the scorching sun for a long time. You see, my wings are burnt." Link was dumbfounded. Fuck, can the pot be shaken like this? But soon, Link's attention was attracted by the two fighting in the desert. Both of them are full of strength, with a punch and kick with great momentum. The aftermath of the punch is like a bomb, lifting up gravel. The two intertwined and colliding forces form a strong wind, so that strangers should not come close. Standing on the periphery, Link could feel the strong wind blowing on his face. John's shots are extremely elegant and easy to use, like dancing in the desert, but every attack is extremely tricky, fierce, and deadly. X was born with top-level fighting and assassination skills, plus a top-level analysis chip embedded in the right arm of the robot. John's actions are being entered into the chip bit by bit, and analyzed and given recommendations. The two have been fighting for half an hour. At this moment, their shirts are no longer as capable as they were when they first appeared on the stage. The macaw on the side sighed with a sigh, "Sorry, I just took the camera chicken back to the media department. I knew I should have kept it. It's a pity that I couldn't write down such good material." John has always been polite and confident. If he can record his current embarrassment, I believe it will be very marketable. Macaw said confidently. Link glanced at the macaw. This guy is not reconciled to be a reporter now, and even the paparazzi wants to make a cameo. This idea is very dangerous. There are no magnificent moves, only the crisp sound of fist to meat and gold and iron. John's S-level skill man in the mirror is a re-engraving target skill. But what he is facing now happens to be himself. X's weapon boxes were scattered randomly in the desert, and the mechanical arms switched to multiple forms, trying every means to force John to use the same moves. He has recorded John's various offensive habits. As long as John uses the same offensive line again, he has a way to crack it. It was another offense and defense, and the two passed by. Feeling the arrival of an outsider, John and X stopped at the same time. John devoted all his energy to the battle just now, completely ignorant of what was happening outside. Now that I saw Link and the destroyed and smoking Machine City, I immediately understood that the Machine Pioneer was killed. This is next to you. John looked at the woolly monkey who was a little taller next to Link. He was familiar with his temperament, but he couldn't believe his appearance. Link patted King Kong on the shoulder. "King Kong, thanks to the blessing of the Mechanical Pioneer, it has evolved again." John looked carefully, and finally couldn't help but sigh, "It's stronger again. This speed of getting stronger is really enviable." The two talked, completely treating X as nothing. X knew the news of the death of the Mechanical Pioneer before John. The right mechanical arm passes through the hand nerves together with the spine and the brain. At the moment when the Mechanical Pioneer loses the signal, the mechanical arm loses connection with this signal, and he knows that Dr. Zhao is more fortunate. The mechanical city was destroyed, and Dr. Zhao died. X suddenly felt a sense of unfulfilled aspirations. There is no wavering in the insistence on the purge agreement, but with the collapse of the mechanical city, those who share the same ideals with him have all sacrificed, and X suddenly feels empty in his heart. John glanced at the silent X, his eyes extremely complicated. He was competing with X just now and found that it is difficult to win self with his strength alone. Now that Link and King Kong are here, they are very sure of winning. But soon John fell into another entanglement, what to do with X. X is a cloned product of his own blood and internal organs, but it has been completely brainwashed by the mechanical pioneers, and has been injected with a lot of compulsory orders and killing techniques. It is completely a killing machine. If it is absolutely a scourge, and the strength is so strong, once it escapes, it can be said that the waste Saturn is in chaos. John didn't want to make more people shed blood and sacrifice because of his momentary kindness. But if he kills him, John always feels a little weird. X can be said to be completely innocent. His birth was a mistake, and he was used as a tool. He did not have any choice. What's more, things like killing yourself, for anyone with a sound mind, there will always be complex emotions. What should I do now? John asked, asking for Link's advice, hoping that his son of prophecy could have more options. Link's eyes widened, his tone of voice was taken for granted, and he blurted out, "Of course I stunned and brought it home." "Why, do you still want to kill yourself?" "But..." Link waved his hand and showed the Desert Emperor's arbitrariness, "But what is it? You are right to listen to me. It's just being brainwashed, not hopeless. What's more, this is a legendary level. What a pity to kill. To know this guy John, if it weren't for this kind of thing, it would be hard to get him out of the way. The legendary king of killers, now his favorite thing to do every day is cooking and doing housework. If this is to let the player know, the glasses will fall off the floor. John is unreliable, but X is okay. As long as X can be restored to normal, Link will have a legendary helper beside him. There are 2 legendary escorts, and the entire waste Saturn, no matter where it is, Link dare to go directly to A. Kill it directly, this is too violent. Feeling X's gaze, John knew that this was not the time to argue. Since Link said to catch alive, there must be a solution. Without thinking about this, John rushed directly, and the 2 immediately handed over. The clang sound is endless. John has the talent of missing. After being separated from Martha, he can cause 50% additional damage because of his thoughts. And Link put the silver marching ant on John, which caused X's talent invisible threat to fail to take effect. Now with Link's affirmative answer, John apparently took a sharp shot. But X is not a vegetarian. After the transformation of the mechanical pioneer, as long as the super mechanical arm has energy, it can explode double damage at any time. The macaw took out a pair of sunglasses from under the armpit and placed it on the metal beak, sighing while facing the sun. The top battle of the waste Saturn is really wonderful. Link didn't have the desire to do it, but instead looked at King Kong beside him. Do you want to do it? Go if you want to do it. King Kong looked at the scene and was silent for a moment. Since the master has spoken, I will try to persuade you to fight for it. Link was stunned. He obviously felt the change in the strength of King Kong holding the sky shaking, and this guy was clearly eager to try. In order to show his intimacy as a master, he took the initiative to speak. Who knew that this guy actually came to reluctantly? This is too arrogant. Link is a little messy. www.mtlnovel.com has become stronger, but his personality has become more complicated. The team is not easy to bring. The King Kong shook the sky, and the tip of the spear disappeared and turned into an iron rod carved with dragon patterns. 2 benefactors, no swords, and ominous bloodshed. It is better to put away the weapons and make peace. After all, shaking the sky, moving towards X is a blow. Strong wind mixed with wind and thunder, and even the sound of Buddha in the wind. Link's eyes were touched, and he understood a little bit. The stick was clearly cursing down. Good guy, really persuasion. As soon as X pushed John back, King Kong's sky shaking smashed down with unmatched aura. X was too late to evade, so he had to raise his robotic arm to resist. Boom! The 2 shadowless objects slammed, and the impact exploded, setting off an explosion in the desert around the 2, 3 circles inside and 3 circles outside. With quick eyes and quick hands, Link grabbed the 2 wings of the macaw and put them in front of him. John bucked the trend for the first time, looking for a gap to shoot. An LV-45 plus, the leader, shot, and the stable balance was suddenly broken. This stick contains 1,000 caddies. As the dust dissipated, all three of them were on the court, their bodies solidified. King Kong's shaking the sky made a full blow, and X raised his hand to block it. A clear dent was left on the robotic arm. And the metal on the surface of the shaking sky also has some cracks. John appeared behind X, and the knife had fallen on the opponent's neck. If you want to give a title to this scene, it must be world-famous paintings. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 477. His coma won't last long, what shall we do now? John breathed a sigh of relief. Beating X out is only the first stage. If the next problem is not solved, this is a hidden danger. When Link watched the game just now, he had a preliminary guess, saying, "Take him back first and find Ludwig, Dave, and Helen." The three of them understand mechanical programming, and there is a huge mechanical in the Weeping Valley. The database may find a solution once and for all. John easily carried the unconscious X on his shoulders, and then left the southern desert with Link. Ludwig, Dave, and Helen are now directing work beside the ruins of the Mechanic City. Although the Mechanic Sect was destroyed, the Mechanic City was completely destroyed by the diamagnetic frenzy. Most of the equipment and materials were destroyed in the violent strong magnetic field, especially the storage equipment containing the knowledge of the Mechanic Sect in the laboratory. The three are now trying to find ways to rescue this knowledge. Li Ziqian and Benjamin, one led the soldiers to clean the battlefield, and the other was outside the mechanical city at the moment, instructing the soldiers to rescue the people who were bound to the human battery in the energy zone. After the reverse magnetic frenzy, all equipment in the mechanical city was magnetized and powered off, and the people who acted as human batteries in the energy zone building in the city also woke up from illusory dreams. Before they could reflect on what happened, they were caught in an apocalyptic scene, facing the collapsed building and the ruins of the mechanical city. Their brains were blank. Many energy buildings collapsed and thousands of people were directly crushed into the rubble. After Link returned to the front line, he casually asked, "How is the situation now?" The people who were planning and coordinating saw Link saluted for the first time, and immediately saw the X of the iconic silver robotic arm on John's shoulder, and glanced at each other. Although they guessed that the boss would join to solve X, they were surprised that they caught Olive directly. "Now we are conducting rescue mining on the data of the Mechanic City, and hope that some of the data will be preserved under the diamagnetic frenzy. Although mechanicism is evil and extreme, science and technology are innocent, and no matter how much can be rescued, it is human wealth." Helen's speech now looks more and more like the future mechanical master. After Li Ziqian and his subordinates confessed, they immediately reported to Link, "The rescue team has entered the mechanical city and began to rescue civilians in the energy zone. However, it is too difficult to rescue from the ruins in the early stage. I have urgently contacted the supervisor Penny. Shadow mobilized large engineering vehicles and equipment, excavated the ruins, and dredged the Gallia Grande Canal." Li Ziqian's thoughts were very clear. Link couldn't help but nod, and then suddenly remembered his previous experience when he sneaked into the Machine City, and said, "Try to help everyone, even if they die, take their bodies out. They have already. It would be too cruel to stay in the container for decades, if the corpse was exposed to the wilderness after death." Li Ziqian nodded firmly, and everyone around him looked at Link with more respect. To have such a benevolent leader, what a husband wants. Link has laid so much for it, and finally said the point, "By the way, when I sneaked into the Mechanic City last time, I found that Alia was also caught by Mechanic Cult. It was in the Energy Center's building. You are searching and rescuing. Be careful when you find it, and notify me as soon as you find it." After Link finished speaking, except for John who knew about it in advance, everyone else showed an incredible expression. "Alia, is the Alia of the Waste Saturn Soul Singer?" Helen swallowed and asked in disbelief. Link's tone was determined, "Yes, it's the soul singer Alia. I don't think anyone will admit mistakes. Li Ziqian suddenly saluted, General, rest assured, promise to complete the task. If anyone in Waste Saturn is well known and who is the most popular, then apart from Wasteland singer Alia, he will not be the second candidate. As the queen of the Waste Saturn, Alia's fans are all over the Waste Saturn. If there is any mysterious power that can stop fighting and affect the situation of the Waste Saturn, then it must be the singing voice of Alia. No matter what the behavior is, it will be postponed after Aria's tour is about to arrive. Even during the previous battle of the Beast Tide in the Dragon City, Alia took her Wasteland mobile stage tour through, and the soldiers of the Dragon City and the barbarous beasts in the north all received their troops and made way for the Soul Singer. After the Soul Singer leaves, fight again. Not only humans, but also the beasts and plants of the Waste Saturn, can also be infected by the voice of Alia's soul and resonate. She is like a pastoralist, taking the exclusive Wasteland mobile stage and leaving in the aftermath of singing. No one knows where she came from, or where she will end. The only thing I know is that every few years, she will suddenly appear, then tour the Waste Saturn, and then disappear again. It's not that no fanatics have followed her, but every time she is inexplicably lost and lost. Some people say that they were fascinated by the voice of the soul, lost themselves in a moment, and were washed away from memories. Others said that it was just an illusion constructed by Alia and she did not want to be followed. Some call her the soul singer, some call her a fairy, and some call her the queen or queen. All in all, she is the most prestigious legend of the Waste Saturn, not one of them. Although everyone didn't know how Alia was caught by the mechanical god cult, they actually dared to make the dignified soul singer into a container battery, but this crime was enough to destroy the mechanical city 100 times. After that, Link looked at the three Ludwigs and asked, X has been knocked out by us. It depends on the situation that the mechanical pioneer brainwashed him, and also added various homicide programming programs in his brain. You have a way. Eliminate the forcibly perfused stuff in his brain. Helen is most curious, already holding the testing equipment in her hand, eager to try. Everyone came to the armored car and put X on the test bench. With all kinds of restraints on his body, there are John and King Kong holding their wrists beside them. Helen took the detection gun and pointed it at X. A laser beam scanned from the brain, then the body limbs, and finally to the feet. After it was over, Helen stared at the X-ray scan on the screen. The brain is normal, and the focus is on the mechanical metal arm of the right hand. The mechanical arm seems to be used for offensive purposes, but in fact it is also embedded with a receiving device and an advanced high-frequency processor, and the mechanical arm has been extended to connect to the spine. It looks like it goes straight to the brain. After Helen's analysis, the three of them made a round and then gave a preliminary suggestion. General, our suggestion is to dismantle his robotic arm first. There are various auxiliary and receiving devices in the robotic arm. One is to weaken his strength and reduce the risk. Second, we need to carry out the chip and storage in the robotic arm. Research may cover his original memory by injecting new instructions. After hearing it, Link felt very reasonable, then do what Helen said, first remove his mechanical arm. The rest of the observation situation will be determined. It's just that the front-line conditions are insufficient now. This robotic arm is connected to the main spine. If you want to remove it for a major operation, you need professional doctors to assist you. After Helen finished speaking, Dr. Ludwig next to him volunteered, go back and hurry up for the operation. X's state is very unstable. It is possible to wake up at any time. If you wake up in the middle of the operation, you will suffer. There is something on the front line. I'm staring, don't worry. With Dr. Ludwig sharing the pressure, everyone immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It happened that a blue-green figure appeared on the computer screen in the car at this time, and it was Troy who had returned. General, fortunately, we succeeded in killing the mechanical pioneers. Link's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, there is something here that I need to trouble you. Let's talk as we walk. Ah Fu drove, the armored car turned around and galloped in the desert, like a flatboat in the sand. On the way back, Helen first separated the robotic arm from the body, leaving only one main circuit with the spinal nerves, and waited until Shenmue City to cooperate with a professional neurologist to complete the removal. In the process, Link asked Troy to invade the robotic arm to check it out, and finally got a positive answer. The underlying code of this robotic arm has a basic protocol called Clean-up Protocol, the robotic arm and the logic valve of X. Is this clean-up agreement? All of X's own thoughts will be judged by the purge agreement when they are output, and only when they meet the protocol standards will they be fed back to X's brain and be fed back in the mode of behavior. But if it contradicts the purge agreement, it will be rejected before transmission, and there will be no feedback from the brain to the body. And Link was familiar with the purge agreement. This thing is the underlying protocol of the entire Mecha sect, or the core protocol. No elementary chip is equipped with this thing, nor does the 1.5 model chip used by the Mechanic Warrior. Only the elder level chips of the Iron and Steel Council have this thing, which is not only a security guarantee, but also a nomination. Said to be an agreement, it is actually a kind of intelligent AI program, which will monitor the installer's physiological level and thinking, and then intervene in his behavior and thoughts. The effect is similar to the stamp of thought. At the same time, Troy also found artificially injected programming traces in X's brain, but the human brain is too complicated, and the data contained in it is vast, so Troy cannot find out all the programming parts in detail in a short time. At the same time, Troy has only viewing permissions and cannot modify the human brain. However, with the cooperation of neurologists and Helen, targeted therapy can almost be achieved. After everyone arrived at Wuthering Castle, they quickly carried X to the operating room and started the operation. In the anesthetic injection phase, when the neurologist asked how much to inject, Link directly chose 20 servings with his teeth. After all, it is LV50+, legendary, a highly resistant horse. If there are fewer injections, it will be a lot of fun to wake up in the middle. Just in case, Link, John, and King Kong are always on standby in the operating room. Once X suddenly rises, they will be subdued for the first time. Watching Helen, Dave, neurologist, and Troy work, Link and John leaned against the wall. This is not what they are good at. All they can do now is wait. If X can really be transformed, what are your plans next? John looked at X on the operating table with complicated eyes. Link put his hands in his chest, leaning against the wall, and his tone was casual and flat. As long as he is completely free from the extreme thoughts of mechanical God, he can do whatever he wants. Of course, in order to ensure that X is not deceived by other extreme forces, he still has to keep up with his ideological education. After all, it is a copy of you, and this strength is at the level of nuclear weapons in Waste Saturn. John nodded in agreement, agreeing with Link's words. I remember you said that in another time and space in your memory, this copy was also under the supervision of the mechanical god cult, and was finally successfully rescued by a foreigner. Will you lead you to do a lot of important things later? Link was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect John to even remember this. I am afraid that the appearance of X today made John believe in his identity as the son of prophecy and nodded, yes. After reawakening, X led the Waste Saturn to the crowd. He has done a lot of great things, and we all call him the protagonist of the Waste Saturn, the son of destiny. Even in the age of the universe, he has not been lost, and has always led the people of the Waste Saturn to a place. After Link finished speaking, looking at John whose lips were upturned, he interrupted his dreams quickly. Hey, wake up, I'm talking about X in another time and space, not you. Why are you happy? John smiled undiminished, and said cheeky, even www.mtlnovel.com that is based on me. Link Tactics scratched his head, if you count that, then X is about equal to you, you are Martha's husband, then X is Martha. John hurriedly covered Link's mouth. Sometimes it is not a good thing that the equal amount of substitution is too good. He is him and I am me. Although we have the same DNA, we have different experiences and memories. At most, he is my brother, and I will be my mother and give birth to another son. Link looked at John slyly and treated him, isn't that too many? After a while, John said with a serious face, if X wakes up and returns to normal, then let him follow you. Link looked at John with some surprise and found him surprisingly serious. I washed my hands in the golden basin, and Martha woke up with your help. I owed you a great favor. Since X did a lot of great things in another time and space, then let him follow you. You came here originally. Changed a lot of things, because of your help. I didn't go to the Machine City alone, there was no death, and there should have been no birth of X. But now that the wings of fate are flapping again, he broke through the barriers of fate and appeared here, then maybe do a big event is his own mission. Link froze for a moment, and savored John's words carefully, finding it surprisingly reasonable. He had changed John's fate, but the savior still appeared. I seem to have changed a lot, but certain events still occur, which shows the power of the rules of fate. Okay, I promise you. When he recovers, I will take him. Such strength should not be unknown. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 478. During the operation, X did open his eyes in a daze, but before he could react, he ate John a hand knife and rolled his eyes and continued to pass out. An hour later, Helen walked over with the robotic arm still stained with blood. The experiment went well, the arm has been completely taken out. The entire robotic arm, except for the arm part, there is a 2-finger-wide baseband inside, a full 1 meter in length. At the end of the blood-bearing baseband, there is a fingernail-sized bionic chip. There are some glued nerve endings around the chip. Some are even active, wriggling like octopus tentacles. Link glanced at the robotic arm and couldn't help asking, how is the situation with X? Helen nodded repeatedly, his physical condition is stable. Only the mechanical arm is removed to cancel the interference of external factors. His brain will still follow the clear protocol subconsciously. At the same time, because he has lost the underlying protocol as a judge, there will be some logic. Chaos, strange behavior. John looked like an anxious family member of the patient and couldn't help asking, then how long will it take for him to fully recover? Helen hesitated for a moment, and his clever eyes rolled, it depends on the next research progress. My grandfather, Troy, and I will find a way to erase the underlying program in the robotic arm, but this is something that the mechanical pioneers personally created. It must have anti-deciphering function, it may take a while. In addition, the code injected into the subconscious mind of the brain has to find a way to find the corresponding area of storage, and find a way to brainwash specific areas to erase these memories. John nodded faintly, but it took time. Although he lost an arm, X is still very strong. Link still needs to deal with the size of the sand dunes, and can't keep an eye on them all the time, so for some time, John has to live in Wuthering Castle and look after X. Looking at X lying on the hospital bed and being pushed out of the operating room, Link thought for a moment, since he has decided to reform him, let's give him a new name. X is okay as a code name, but not as a name. You be regarded as his guardian, leave this job to you. John thought for a moment, and finally saw the silver robotic arm in Helen's hand have a hint of understanding. It's better to call him Silver Hand. Yin Xiao, an appropriate description, a good name. John patted Link on the shoulder, followed Yin Xiao's hospital bed, took out his cell phone as he walked, and reported the situation to his wife. After John left, Troy came to Link, "My lord, I need to report to you some details about the killing of the mechanical pioneers." Link heard something in Troy's words and said, "Come to my office." At the same time, after the frontline players completed the task of converging the battlefield, they were arranged by Li Ziqian to return to Shenmue City to receive the reward. A cordon has been set up in the ruins of the machinery city. Except for the military personnel of Shadow, other foreigners are not allowed to enter. Players shook their fingers along the way to calculate how many rewards they could get. In this battle, 34,577 players raised in the experience prize pool. The entire experience pool had 17,488,500 points of experience. Nearly 17.5 million experience was redistributed, and some of them performed well. The reward that the player gets is definitely the number of times invested. Now the task is completed. As long as you return to Shenmue City, you can get the corresponding reward. Moreover, the event of the destruction of the Mechanic City is two completely different experiences from participating in person and watching from the forum. The players returned to Shenmue City happily. The news of victory had already reached Shenmue City and Shadow. The players enjoyed the heroic treatment. Passers-by in the small shops in Shenmue City displayed lanterns and decorations as if they were celebrating the new year. There are also paper fireworks on both sides of the street. Welcome, and even the shop owner shouted with a loudspeaker, any hero who participated in the Battle of Goria can enjoy a 20% discount in this shop. All of this makes the players feel extremely novel. One by one raised their heads and chests. It really feels like a hero is returning. When the players came to the military intelligence office of Shenmue City, there was already a long line. The first player in the ranking is called Boiled Meatballs and Soft Drinks. After killing 6 mechanical fanatics, he was killed by the aftermath of the battle between John and X. Seeing that the victory or defeat was already divided, he returned to the MI department early after his resurrection. Wait in line. If he stayed on the front line, the number of deaths increased. Maybe even the guaranteed 500 experience points would not be allocated. After the staff of the Military Intelligence Department learned of the triumphant victory on the front line, Ren Yi immediately arranged for him to put down all his work and deal with the next large-scale exchange of foreigners. To this end, the Military Intelligence Department has also deliberately added a lot of exchange windows, and registration and issuance will be carried out at the same time, saving time and effort, and efficiency comes first. The staff is ready, as if facing an enemy. Although the gate in front of him has not been raised yet, waves of crowded waves and noises of strangers outside have already passed through the rolling door. Some newcomers to the cabinet even ooze sweat on their foreheads, their eyes trance, and extremely nervous. Hey! As Ren Yi blew the whistle, the shutter door slowly rose, and the staff saw the staring and hungry eyes of the strangers. They knew clearly that they were here to hand in tasks to receive rewards. Those who didn't know thought it was a door-to-door disturbance. Soda Pork Meatballs take the lead in running to the task table and show the corresponding trophy certificate. I will hand in the task. After reviewing by the staff, they immediately took out a Desert Eagle medal. Warrior, this medal is a proof of your record. Thank you for your contribution to Shadow. These 600 waste coins are cash rewards and corresponding contribution points. It has been added to your account, please check. At the same time, the system of Soda Pork Meatballs also gave out a crisp and sweet reminder. Congratulations on completing the task of initiating a total attack. Target Mechanical City, you kill 6 mechanical fanatics, and you gain 150 experience based on your contribution. Okay. Seeing this, the Soda Pork Meatballs were stunned. When I participated in the mission, I clearly invested 500 points of experience. I died once and killed 6 enemies. How did I get less experience? How can I get 170 points of experience? I killed 8 fanatics, this number is a bit wrong. The player who received the reward next door also raised the same question. You have less? Soda Pork couldn't help but asked. Yet, I feel that there is a bug in this wave of rewards in the system. Nearly more than 35,000 players participated in the mission. If you kill 7 or 8 to give 170 points of experience at a loss, doesn't it mean that everyone will be 10 and kill 200,000-300,000 members of the mechanical gods? Only medals, contribution points, and cash are settled on the counter of the Military Intelligence Department, and the rewards of experience are automatically generated by the system. More and more players who have completed the task have discovered this problem, and so far no one has gotten back their 500 points of experience. The players got together to discuss this matter. Everyone in the Guild of Miracles completed the task together and received medals, contribution points, and cash rewards, but the faces of everyone were not very good looking. The leftover king couldn't help asking, "President, how much experience have you returned?" Her face was pale. Hearing that ordinary players had only returned 100 or 200 points of experience, she knew that his chance was coming. As a player who killed 41 enemies, his record was definitely among the best. This wave of 15 million experience pool, he can definitely eat oily mouth. As a result, after the task was completed, the system issued a reminder that Chasing Wind had gained 500 experience points which were refunded, but no more points were scored. "I just gave 500 points of experience when doing the task, and I didn't have more." The chasing atmosphere was maddening, and the psychological gap was too big for the actual hand. The leftover king frowned and couldn't help but question, "This is wrong, you can kill more than the boss, and there are many mechanical warriors and mechanical apostles in you. How can you kill?" Ranking in the top 10, such a little experience is absolutely wrong. Although he received other rewards, seeing the tens of thousands of experience flying away like a cooked duck, Chai Feng felt awkward. "Let's go back to the villa first, and later I will ask about the other guilds." Soon after the wind went back to the villa, he called and asked about Lang Feng, Emma Wen, Tangju, Yao Yaling, and even the bombing of chickens and the robbery. The final information was the same, and the highest was only returning 500 points. Experience, the rest have more or less only a part of experience. That's weird. The one who killed the most only got 500 experience points and everyone else lost the bonus pool experience. Then whoever got all these experiences? This problem has become a curious question for other players, so that there are even posts in the forum. Initiate a total attack, target the mechanical city. 17.5 million experience in the experience pool is missing. Is it the distortion of human nature or the loss of morality? Condemn the game company collectively, the game has serious bugs, let's complain. If it weren't for killing monsters and getting experience, I almost made a lost task. In short, the Waste Saturn forum was directly rushed by shadow players, and the posts for a while were all about the issue of the bonus task allocation bug. It even creates the illusion that Saturn is ruined by sand. Just as the players sparked heated discussions, a pretty boy in the Howling Castle was hit by tens of millions of prizes. Link and Troy have just finished talking about the rocket prototype design in the head of the Mechanical Pioneer. As for the rocket prototype design drawing, after you go back to the data center, copy the content to the data center. Now the satellite in the sky, I will give you full responsibility. Next, I will arrange for the Air Force and media departments to apply for permission. Troy nodded slightly, then used the network of Howling Castle to leave and return to the data center. As soon as Troy walked away, Link took off his coat and prepared to take a bath to soothe his tight nerves after the fight. As soon as the jacket was put on, the system suddenly issued a prompt that made Link extremely surprised. Did you perform well in the task of initiate a total attack, target the mechanical city, and the system judged that the total contribution rate was 80%. You gain 13,990,800 experience. 13.99 million experience, nearly 14 million experience. Link froze for a moment. He didn't send this task to the player. Why did he gain so much experience himself? Link returned to the task release interface to check the task, and after reading it several times, he finally realized it. Fuck, you are stupid, I forgot to add the limit players only when sending the mission. When the system counts the mission contribution, it also counts all NPCs. Immediately, Link entered the forum and took a look. Really? Just took a look. Then I was scared off by the condemnation posts full of screens. Good guy, at a glance, it was all about discussing how little mission experience was. Few of the 500 points of experience involved in the mission can be repaid. If it weren't for the experience gained from killing the enemy on the battlefield, it wouldn't even be possible to return after a mission. Then there are a lot of financial monsters. After a task, not only did the people fail to kill, but also put 500 experience in it, and properly manage the negative points. Then Link found a contribution fold/expand button behind the task. Click to open it, and his contribution ranks first, accounting for 80%. Followed by Grace, Benjamin 3rd, Li Ziqian 4th, John 5th, Troy 6th. John, Li Ziqian, and Benjamin are all on the list. Then these NPCs add up to a total contribution of about 10%. Next, there are many players. At the top were old faces that Link knew well. Link scratched his head, this contribution is something. Just in response to that sentence, the world's experience is 1 stone, Link has 8 fights, the masters have 1 fight, and the players share 1 fight. Link seems to be able to think of the player's expression on his teeth. But this is the end of the matter, and I can only bear the pain to accept these experiences. Link covered his face helplessly, the corners of his aggrieved mouth gradually rose, and now it seems that he has found a way to cut leak. 13.99 million experience, plus 10.8 million experience on him, Link now has a total of 24.79 million experience. So much experience is enough for Link to spend the entire 1.0 version. Link took a bath in the bathtub, revealing the huge one-sided floor-to-ceiling windows, just in time to see the setting sun. More than 4 months have passed since the game was officially opened. Shadow's number 1 enemy has been successfully resolved, and Link's strength and power have reached a new peak. www.lightnovel.com The benefits of a big war, it is immeasurable. Looking back at the previous struggles, it can be described as a small fight. In a war, the experience gained from the frontal battlefield adds up to more than 20 million. This is just a mechanical god. There are many extremist organizations similar to Waste Saturn, such as Wasteland Gang, Beast Tide, Brotherhood, Crusader, Academy, and so on. Such an exaggerated reward, I'm really afraid that I can't help being tempted to become a warmonger in the future. This time only the Mechanic City, participated by more than 30,000 players, will gain tens of millions of experience. There will be more participants, and more experience you can gain. Link's eyes lit up, as if seeing his bright future. At night, there is a bright light creeping across the desert in the desert. This is the procession between Shenmue City and Mechanical City. The refugees serving as batteries in the Mechanic City were settled in Shenmue City under the of soldiers, while the engineering team from Shadow went to Mechanic City to be responsible for the reconstruction plan of the Mechanic City. Just when Link was about to take a break, the phone rang and it was Li Ziqian's call. On the other side of the phone, Li Ziqian's voice was low and depressed. General, all personnel in the Mechanic City have searched and rescued 41,277 survivors, 13,457 victims, a total of 54,734 people. Among these people, I did not find Alia. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 479. No. Link flipped up from the bed instantly, speaking as fast as a cannon. Energy center has been searched all over? No other places in the energy zone have been left out? Have everyone verified it again? The corpses are also corresponded one by one, right? Li Ziqian was silent for a moment. All have been verified, indeed there is no. Now all the survivors and corpses have been concentrated in Shadow, the general can take a look. Wait for me. Link immediately put on his clothes and rushed to Shenmue City with the stars and moon. One night later, Link collapsed weakly on the sofa, pressing his temple with his right hand. In one night, he saw all the survivors and all the dead. The faces of more than 50,000 people were in his mind, which made him feel strange to everyone now. As Li Ziqian said, with so many people, he didn't find Alia. Li Ziqian on the side asked euphemistically, "General, could it be that you read it wrong?" Link didn't rush to refute, but thought about the situation carefully. He clearly saw Alia's face in the jar. In the 1.0 version of the Waste Saturn, there are not many NPCs that can make a deep impression on people. Among them, the most influential and well-known NPC is none other than Alia. He can never admit his mistake. No, there is absolutely no admission. Li Ziqian took a deep breath. In this case, I will order someone to conduct a carpet search in the mechanical city to see if there are missing or unrecognizable corpses. Link nodded. That's the only thing now. Thank you so hard. Link returned to the Howling Castle and woke up after a short nap. The disappearance of Alia has been haunting his heart, making him sleepless. Link wandered in the corridor for a while, and finally rang the room between John and Silverhand. John opened the door and saw Link was still a little stunned. "Why did you come here so early? Are you worried? So come and have a look." Link's face was solemn. When he walked into the room, he saw Silverhand, who was still drowsy, and he couldn't help but froze. "Is it time for the drug effect of the anesthetic to pass? Why haven't you woken up all night?" John shrugged helplessly. "I woke up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night. I just fainted to prevent him from getting up and making trouble at night." Link was dumbfounded. "Are you not afraid of breaking your brain?" John poured 2 cups of coffee and handed it to Link. "If it breaks so easily, then how can I do great things? And I didn't faint as soon as I woke up, but gave him 2 or 3 seconds to recover." Adding up several times, he is a little clearer about the current situation. Lin K took a sip of coffee and felt much better. He couldn't help but give a thumbs up. "You're ruthless, or you're ruthless, and you don't even let self go." Linkla returned to the topic, with a serious expression. "Remember the last time I met Alia in Mechanic City? Yesterday Li Ziqian dug up all the survivors and bodies of Mechanic City, but didn't find it. Alia. I went to Shenmue City overnight to compare them one by one, but found nothing." John frowned. He didn't doubt whether Link was wrong. After all, it was Alia, and it would not be wrong for anyone to identify the Waste Saturn. But it's a bit weird to disappear so strangely. Could it be that the follow-up mechanical pioneer also recognized Alia and then transferred her to other departments for research? John put forward his own ideas. It is indeed possible. Today Li Ziqian will lead the team to conduct another carpet search, and there may be new gains. After Link finished speaking, he was taken aback for a moment and then asked, "What should I do if there is still no search after searching? I have a strong hunch that the things behind this may not be that simple." John's face also showed a solemn expression. "You mean, this matter may be related to Alia's background?" "I'm just guessing, but this time I have a strong hunch. In the previous life, Alia's life experience became a mystery, and some idle players tried to dig out the background story, but like the NPC of the Waste Saturn, they would lose their target every time they chase. Even after the player entered the 2.0 or even 3.0 version level, he found that it was still the same after returning. Over time, people had no choice but to treat Alia as a simple NPC giving players buffs, without any background or plot. Link thought so at first, so seeing Alia in a container in the Machine City was so shocked and surprised. Obviously, this NPC, who is regarded as a simple buff dispenser by everyone, has a deep story behind it that can be unearthed. By the way, you have been busy all night, maybe you haven't read today's newspaper?" Right before Link left, John handed over a fresh newspaper of today. Link walked out of the room and took a look at today's Waste Saturn Morning Post. Overnight, the news that Shadow flattened the mechanical god cult spread throughout the Free Federation, and even many forces received news. The newspaper wrote that Su Tianzhao, head of Dragon City, and Augustine, head of Fei, highly praised Link. The Shadow eradicated the mechanical gods, safeguarded justice, defended territorial integrity, and made outstanding contributions to the stability of the southwest of the Free Federation. Even the head of the Law Knight, Augustine, said that this victory marked the beginning of the prelude to the fight against evil forces from defensive to offensive. This is the content of the first edition, and the second edition is the social review of the Waste Saturn Morning Post. In addition to the high evaluation, there is also a photo of the mechanical city broken into ruins. As one of the most influential sects of the Waste Saturn, the mechatronics religion has been supported by many fans as soon as its theory of mechanical immortality was published, and believers spread throughout the Waste Saturn. At the same time, because of its obsession with mechanical technology, it also has the highest mechanical technology of all Waste Saturn. 20 years ago, the Free Federation used the power of the entire Federation, and only then did the menacing mechanical gods retreat, and it was difficult to maintain peace for 20 years. Now, Link has only been in power for less than half a year, and he has pushed the cult of mechanical god horizontally, showing unparalleled dominance, and injecting a clear stream into the Free Federation that is struggling to resist threats. At the same time, this victory also established the power of monster security's pets, and the effect on the battlefield even exceeded that of regular troops. Whether it is the entanglement control of the psychedelic vine, the invisible killer bee's ability to kill low-level enemies, or the final classic wolf cavalry charge and tier formation, they all play an unparalleled effect, even better than a top-equipped, high-quality sharp knife assault. The team's effect is even stronger. This made Long Cheng and Fei overjoyed again and determined the right choice to spend huge sums of money to introduce Steppenwolves. At the same time, Monster Security Company went out of Shadow and went to Dragon City and Fei to open branches. The news was also accidentally leaked by Penny. I heard that there are more pet styles to choose from. The powerful and celebrities are ready to move, waiting for the Monster Security Company to rush to buy. Perny's propaganda methods, combined with the overwhelming spread effect of official newspapers and trail newspapers, brought Link's influence on the Waste Saturn to a new level in just one day. If Link climbed from a slave to the highest position of Shadow in just 6 months, it is a legendary experience. Then, under his leadership, Shadow accumulated power in half a year to eradicate mechanical god cult in one fell swoop. This is the proof of ability. The rise of Link has begun to change the original pattern of the Waste Saturn, and this change is still deepening. Congratulations, gain 1 point of influence of the Waste Saturn, 12 points of current influence. At 12 o'clock influence, among the many power leaders and celebrities of the Waste Saturn, it has surpassed Su Tianzhao, the Lord of the Dragon City, and Augustine, the head of Fei, to become the most influential man on the Waste Saturn. At this time, Link's inadvertent sentence will become the focus of other people's discussion. A compliment will be regarded as glory by the listener, and his views on things will be regarded as the norm. And now there is only one influence in the entire Wasteland Saturn surpassing Link, and that is the Wasteland singer Alia. Solving the mechanical god cult, the influence can reach 12 points. If this is to eradicate other forces, the influence will reach 15 points soon. By then, there will be the same level of influence as Alia, and the entire Waste Saturn will be my will moves. Late at night, Link's phone rang. When he saw the name of the caller Li Ziqian, Link was ready. General, I organized the special forces of Tico and Fox Hunt and professional search and rescue personnel to carry out a carpet inspection of the Mechanic City, but I still did not find Alia. I entrusted Dr. Ludwig and Helen. Clues were found in the district database. Link seemed to have thought of this result, but he didn't feel much disappointed when he heard these words. Okay, you have worked hard these days, so take a good rest. After Link hung up, a task prompt appeared suddenly. You have triggered the B-level task mystery of the singer, accept/reject. Task reminder, you have discovered that the Wasteland Singer area is strangely missing from the Machine City, and you have a foreboding that there is a secret hidden in it, which may be related to her life experience. Task reward, unknown. It's actually a B-level mission, the reward is unknown, it's kind of interesting. Link simply accepted the task. According to his understanding, no one should have been given this task in the previous life, because everyone finally regarded Alia as a planetary welfare messenger and a buff distribution machine. Even until the follow-up version, Alia has been singing in the Waste Saturn, providing buffs and convenience to countless new players. And this time, Link got a puzzle-solving task, hoping to unveil Alia's phantom and veil. After 2 days of fermentation in the forum, players also emerged from the shadow of experience blood loss. In protest with the game company has only one sentence: all behaviors in the game are controlled by the brain, and the task rewards will not go wrong. Finally, the game company unbearably released the contribution file in the system, and the player suddenly realized it. Dare to Love. This task is still considered an NPC, Link, forcing a person to swallow 14 million experience, is really a bull beer. The remaining scattered NPCs ate 10%, and finally all players shared 10%. When the contribution file was released, all players were silent. It's ridiculous. What does an NPC need experience to do? Is it possible that he will really upgrade according to his experience requirements? Link has eaten 14 million experience in this wave, so it should be level 60. How can anyone see how many levels Link is now? Don't guess. I used to ignore the answers when I was ordinary and elite. Now I am the leader. From more than 30 levels at the beginning, it has become a string of question marks. The ghost knows how awesome Link is now. I don't need to say more about it. JPG. The players went from indignation to relief and ridicule. However, this matter also reminds the players, who would have thought that taking a quest has to pay attention to the text trap inside. This wave was purely inductive consumption, and Link went mad directly. This quest also gave players a long memory. Don't see the rewards of the quest and your eyes will light up. Maybe there is a hole in it. The players quickly withdrew from the task, and after the big event ended, they turned to continue to invest in the dungeon. There are also players with keen sense of smell, who have begun to look at the Wasteland Gang at the far end of the desert. The mechanic sect was destroyed, leaving only the Wasteland Gang with a single tree in the southern desert, and the next focus will definitely be on the Wasteland Gang. If you can get some intelligence or news in advance, maybe you can become the second bombing chicken, fly to the branch and become a phoenix, and become the big wet brother. Shadow also ushered in a short period of peaceful development, and various industries developed steadily and rapidly. The first is the satellite controlled by Troy. This unique satellite has brought great convenience to the sands. Although only 1/3 of the day can be used, it is coordinated by Troy, whether it is military detection or commercial use. For civilian use, good results have been achieved. Secondly, in terms of business and trade, the large tracts of desert occupied by the mechanic cult have been recovered, and some resources in the desert can be developed, such as the Red Dragon's Back, or other resource projects being developed by the mechanic cult, which will be directly taken over under the arrangement of Penny. Finally, in terms of population, more than 40,000 residents were absorbed at once. www.mtlnovel.com. After the review and registration were completed, Link let them live as they wish. Many residents of Shadow chose to return to Shadow to find relatives. Anna simply organized several sessions of going home, which was a big success. The tortuous visits and touching plots set off a frenzy of TV ratings and earned enough tears from the residents of Shadow. Even non-girl players watch in front of the TV every Tuesday and Friday night. There are some unrelated residents who simply settled down in Shenmue City. There are so many strangers here, and many job opportunities are found every day. Some more courageous survivors simply joined Shadow's official engineering team and went north to the Deathmire to build a transfer station, or went south to the Machinery City site to help with the reconstruction of the Machine City. Link was also very happy during this time, and his staff were busy, so he and John tuned the Silver Hand in the Howling Castle. Although the Silver Hand only has one arm, it is a legendary level after all. Sometimes it suddenly goes crazy, and it can't be won without a hard move. And a few days later, this guy's one-armed position changed from inferior to superior, and he developed one-handed force skills, fiercely yuppie, so Link thought that this guy Yanguo was possessed. Monster Synthesis Master Chapter 480. General, I have found a solution to the silver hand. Helen's excited voice came from the other end of the phone, and Link could feel the girl's excitement and joy across the phone line. Link stood in the garden, looking at the silver hand against John, his eyes lit up. Oh? Let's listen to it. Helen paused, and immediately started the business model. Deciphering the underlying code of the robotic arm made by the mechanical pioneer is very difficult in a short time. But I thought of another way. When the general infiltrated the mechanical city last time, the mouse agent team did not steal a mechanical from the laboratory of the mechanical giant arm. My grandpa and I think that we can reprogram the robotic arm and install it on the silver hand, and use the new program of the robotic arm to fight against the program injected into his brain. When the two contradictory programs are shared when it works, it may offset his extreme behavior. It makes sense. Link understands this method. Use magic against magic, and use programs against programs. I will ask the macaw to send the robotic arm to you and complete the programming as soon as possible. Link looked at John and Silverhand, who were fighting together, looking forward to Helen's masterpiece. In the past few days, he and John have been serving as a training partner for the silver hand, and they are almost drained. This guy's one-handed attack is getting sharper and faster, and his hand speed is getting faster and faster, and John and Link can't help it. Link hung up the phone and looked up to the macaw, who was sitting next to the railing on the second floor, and said, "Old Jin, you go to the secret room and take out the Goria Technology mechanical power arm, and then send it to Helen. She wants to study it." The macaw jumped up with a chuckle, the gossip gleamed in its small eyes, and the figure appeared in front of Link in the next second. Helen studies what the robotic arm is doing. Has he found a solution? Link nodded lightly. It's just a guess. It's not clear whether it works, but it's worth trying. The macaw grinned. Now John and Link, who are dragging with one-armed silver hand, are like kidney deficiency. If this fails after pressing the mechanical arm, wouldn't it be fun to watch? Don't say it, it's okay to help you share your worries. I'll go now. After the macaw finished speaking, it disappeared from Link. Link frowned slightly. The macaw was so attentive. There was a strange smile on his mouth before he left, and he was almost ready to see him embarrassed. But it is estimated that the macaw will be disappointed. Helen is no less than a mechanical pioneer, even if he has not grown to the strength of a mechanical pioneer, but with the huge mechanical database in the data center, coupled with extraordinary talents, he has achieved success. The ultra-mechanical pioneer is just around the corner. When Link was thinking about it, John in the garden hurriedly shouted, "Come here and change, I'll take a break with a drink." Link put down the champagne glass in his hand, moved his wrist and neck, his joints creaked. Turn on the jump, rush to the silver hand, the crane-shaped fist starts to fight, and at the same time begins to flee. Quietly tell you one thing, the mechanical pioneer is dead. I killed it. I'm not targeting anyone, I just want to say that the mechanical gods are all spicy chicken. Any attempt to destroy all non-mechanical creatures in the world? Now that the mechanical god teaches itself is gone, how can I say? Silverhand was furious, and his shot was as fast as thunder. The left arm made of flesh and blood also faintly grasped the power burst, which shook Link's internal organs with pain. However, Link has not gained nothing in the past few days. For the Silverhand's single left fist, Link also found a corresponding way to use the crane-shaped fist to suppress the Silverhand's force. Crane boxing always pays attention to speed, and the Silverhand has only one arm. Facing Link's attack like a pouring rain, he can only extend his arm to block the passive defense in front of him. To put it bluntly, Link just bullied Silverhand with only one arm. Unlike kills, pair training requires more advanced skills and measures. If you can't let go, you need to consume more energy. If you let go of the fight, Link now has a full level all directions, and the silver hand with only one arm is really not his opponent. Unlevel skill, upgraded from LV1 to LV10, cost Link 8 million experience abruptly. But the improvement effect is also extremely significant. Shifang Ju Mi LV10, a Link has a unique stunt after comprehending the martial arts, causing 4,000 points of damage to all enemies within 200 meters in diameter, and exerting a deterrence effect on the enemy for 5 minutes. Every time you kill an enemy in a state of deterrence, you can absorb the opponent's breath, blood fury. Attack power, movement speed, and resistance are increased by 8%, which can be stacked for 10 minutes, cost 500 points, life value. If it used to be all directions is a fixed point blast, a small amount of damage. So now all the 10 directions at the full level are destroyed, and the effect and power can be called a nuclear bomb. 4,000 points of high damage, a large range of 200 meters in diameter. If this is a shot, generally a leader of level 30 or so can directly kill instantly, which is really all directions. Moreover, the increase ratio of each layer of blood fury has also increased from 5% to 8%, which is a tremendous increase. The silver hand originally had 20,000 blood, and the mechanical arm was removed. Now the total blood volume is only 12,000. As long as Link is not afraid to tear down the Howling Castle, there is a good chance of taking the silver hand in exchange for injury. But now it can only be suppressed, and can't be killed. That's more difficult. Link was about to run out of energy, his hands against Yin Xiao's counterattack. John suddenly appeared behind him, a hand knife slashed at Yin Xiao's neck. Puff! As Silver Hand rolled his eyes and fell to the ground, John and Link let out a sigh of relief at the same time. Today's task is finally completed. Practicing against Silver Hands every day, it's like raising a husky at home, and you must take it out every day for a walk. If you don't slip away, you will be energetic and easy to tear down your home. Helen thought of a solution. Using the robotic arm we took out of the mechanical city before, rewrite a program that offsets the purge agreement to offset each other. If the program effect is just balanced, then the silver hand can return to normal. A little deviation, there may be a risk of behavior disorder, but it is definitely more aggressive than it is now. John nodded in agreement. I hope Helen can make it as soon as possible. No matter what, it's better than now. During this period, John seems to have returned to the time without Martha. In just a few days, his beard and hair were sloppy, and even the cheeks and eyes that had been moisturized by love before were like withered roses, shriveled to the naked eye. If he keeps on like this, the silver hand is not normal, and he collapses first. But fortunately, Helen was able to reprogram the mechanical power arm of JRUEA technology in one day. At this time, a crowd of people were concentrated in the underground research center. The macaw sighed first. It will be done in one day. Helen, are you too fast? Helen Kyung snorted lightly, and said proudly, that's not it, I just finished it after staying up all night. I also ran a test, and it perfectly conflicted with the clean-up agreement. The effect was gratifying. The macaw scratched his fat belly, listening to Helen's meaning. This wave was stable, then there was no good show, and his face could not help showing disappointment. John stepped forward and was ready with a hand knife, and asked, how long will the whole installation process take? I will give the silver hand a shot to prevent him from waking up and resisting. Helen waved her hand, already quite the temperament of a person in charge. No, the nerve connection of this Goria technology mechanical power arm is in the arm part, and it is fed back to the spine and then to the brain through electrical signals. Unlike the removed one, the nerve center it also comes with a chip and requires surgical support. This only needs to be installed in place, and the neural simulation of the robotic arm will automatically release nerve electrical signals to guide the nerve tissue to connect. The entire process takes about 10 minutes. In the aseptic operating room, Helen walked over with his sterilized mechanical arms in both hands. This robotic arm is slightly different from the robotic arm specially built for Silver Hand by the mechanical pioneers. This mechanical arm was previously built for himself by the mechanical pioneer. Later, after replacing the body material as a whole to create an integrated alloy body, the mechanical arm was used as a proof of previous feats and was placed on the collection table of the laboratory. Later, when infiltrating the mechanical city, one was stolen by the rat special agents, and the other was the culprit responsible for the explosion and destruction of the mechanical giant. Now this high-end robotic arm used by the mechanical pioneers in the past, after being re-injected into the program, is about to be installed on the arm of the silver hand as a substitute. The gap between the metal pieces on the robotic arm is slightly wider. If the new model resembles a silver dragon scale, the old model has a mechanical wind with a slightly wider gap. Each piece of alloy armor is about 4 fingers wide. From the shape of the robotic arm, we can also see the speed of technological advancement of the mechanical gods. The higher the width of the alloy armor sheet, the fewer the number of driving joints in it, and the angle twist will be hindered. Therefore, it is the ambition of the mechanical pioneer to integrate more driving joints in a limited space, so that the angle can operate like normal humans, or even surpass humans. In the whole process, the surgeon first cleans up the scabs and rotten meat on the silver hand's arm, and then applies a potion that stimulates the nerve endings, and then the robotic arm access process. After the robotic arm was powered on, Helen performed remote sensing operations in front of the computer. The robotic arm has its own access program, and everything is carried out in an orderly manner. Soon you can see the close integration of the affinity metal and flesh and blood. Compared to the installation process, the initial surgical part looks a little more complicated. Link and John came behind Helen, and all the data indicators on the computer screen were successfully connected and data appeared. Helen noticed the 2 big guys coming over and explained, "Now it shows that the operation is very successful, and each nerve signal has been connected in sequence. Now the access ratio has reached 78%, and it will be all connected soon." The computer screen is a cross-sectional simulation diagram of the robotic arm, and in the cross-sectional plane, there are round small balls. Each small ball represents an important nerve connection. Only when all nerve connections are normal can the robot arm be fully displayed. Effect: when the round ball on the screen changed from red to green, the nerve connections were all successful. Helen rubbed her hands in excitement and said to herself, "Next, the most critical part, the program is hedged." Helen presses the start button, and the underlying code recompiled by the robotic arm starts to run. Through the connection between the robotic arm and neurons, the brain is constantly stimulated with electrical signals. The silver hand lying on the hospital bed trembled like an electric shock. Link and John were taken aback by the movement and the magnitude. Next, the twitches are rhythmic and continuous. The macaw, who originally thought it was nothing to watch, pulled on the transparent glass outside the operating room and looked at the twitching silver hand with brows. "The good show I am looking forward to is on schedule?" Link looked flustered at Silverhand's reaction, and asked, "Helen, what is the content of the underlying program that you wrote to hedge against the purge agreement?" Helen Mizzy said with a bit of inviting credit, "I am rebutting one by one in accordance with the purge agreement. The purge agreement says that all non-mechanical bodies shall be killed, and I wrote that all things in the world shall be treated peacefully. The purge agreement says the mechanical pioneer is the head of state. So I wrote that the generals and horses are looking forward. The clean-up agreement says that only machinery is an aesthetic symbol, and I wrote that everything in the world has its own beauty, no distinction between high and low. I call this agreement the law of a beautiful world." After hearing Helen's answer, Link scratched his head tactically. "It doesn't feel right. But there seems to be no problem." John stared at the trembling silver hand, always feeling that he was suffering from the current disaster, and couldn't help asking, "How long will the program hedging end?" Helen looked at the injection progress bar and estimated, "There is still 1 minute and 38 seconds. The clean-up agreement is not long, just inject one by one, and it will be okay after the reflex nerve is formed." Time is ticking. For Link and John, www.mtlnovel.com. Every second is like a year, for fear that something will suddenly go wrong. After the injection of Helen's Law of a Wonderful World was completed, the silver hand did not shake anymore and everything returned to normal. Okay, you're done, now just wait for the silver hand to wake up to see the effect. Helen said excitedly. With all anesthetic effects removed, the physique of the legendary silver hand was quickly awakened. The moment I opened my eyes, the fierce light appeared. Link and John felt tight. Before the two of them acted, Silverhand's murderous aura diminished, his eyes confused, and it seemed that he had encountered some problems. Link and John looked at each other. It's done. After a while, Yinxiao turned over from the hospital bed and raised the newly installed mechanical arm to his forehead. Although it has short hair, it still has an unruly temperament. He opened his arms and said, I am the sun. I want to pursue light, heat, and truth. Everyone was shocked. This style of painting seemed a bit wrong. Link and John's eyes focused on Helen, hoping that the person in charge could give an explanation. Helen was also dumbfounded, and the dull hair on her head was frightened. Wait, let me check, it shouldn't happen in principle. Helen stammered a bit, and quickly retrieved the silver hand information on the computer device with both hands. On the other side, Yinxiao was wearing a hospital gown, standing on the hospital bed, impassioned as if giving a speech. A great artist only digs out the truth from his own experience, so I have to go out and discover it myself. Me, Silver Hand, great artist.